Boar's Head is bringing a slice of Japan to the deli. Introducing Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. Tender, slow-roasted chicken breast, coated in our signature teriyaki glaze, where ginger, garlic, and a hint of brown sugar meet for a flavor that's both sweet and savory. New Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. The bold flavor of Japan. Now at the deli. Only from Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.
Blog Talk Radio.
Here we go. Blast off.
This is True Capitalist Radio. True Capitalist Radio.
I am your host, the man they call Ghost.
The badass of business.
Give him capitalism or give him death.
That's it. Period.
Broadcasting from his Skyline office studios in beautiful downtown Austin, Texas.
You sound fruitier than a box of Fruit Loops, for Christ's sake.
And now, he'll take it from here. Your host, the prognosticator of prognosticators, the man they call Ghost.
For tuning in with me with a late edition of the True Capitalist Radio broadcast. Folks, this is episode number 44 for all the folks that are keeping track with the broadcast. But let me tell you something right now. We had to broadcast an hour later because of these milky liquors at Blog Talk Radio. With all due respect, I know that Blog Talk Radio is doing an upgrade, that sort of thing. So I have become accustomed to, whenever I'm about to do a show, an hour before I do the show, I kind of schedule the program and figure out what I'm going to talk about. I mean, there's definitely no time other than 15 minutes before the program is basically where the whole concept is concocted. Well, anyway, because of technical difficulties, because of, for whatever reason, I just could not schedule a goddamn broadcast at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time out here. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I was so pissed off. I threw my damn laptop. I got to go get a new laptop now. I threw it. It's a cracked screen, for Christ's sake. I'm looking at the chat room. It's kind of coming in two different directions. But we were still able to pull off a broadcast. I almost didn't, because like I said, I'm out here in Austin, Texas, folks, and we've got South by Southwest. I mean, we got all the stars out here representing, at these libation establishments. You've got musicians out here. You've got individuals debuting their movies. A lot of artistic creativeness happening. A lot of people in the streets. And I was almost tempted to just, shit can, with all due respect to all the folks that are listening in out there, this show, because of this technical difficulties that happened here with BTR, but let me tell you something right now. We continued on with it. Ghost is here. It's an hour later, so if you happen to be tuning in live with me right now, folks, spread it around like wildfire. That Ghost is still live. He's in effect, and he's in the house. You understand what I'm saying? Spread it around like wildfire. Let everybody know that, hey, True Capitalist Radio is now live. You know what I'm talking about? Don't be a milky liquor. Come down here, chill with us, kick back with us, have a beer or some kind of alcoholic libation with us. People always email me up saying, oh, you know what, Ghost? You're a little bit of a drunk. You drink alcoholic beverages all the time. What I don't really understand is, with this day and age of not just economic uncertainty and environmental potential uncertainty, natural, just all the things that have come our way, it's no wonder why maybe ex-drug addicts and maybe ex-alcoholics, maybe start considering going back on the wagon. And I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to make a joke. I mean, look at all the goddamn garbage that we have to put up with in the world out here. I mean, let me tell you, I make my money on business. I'm a capitalist, all right? I have to take everything into consideration when becoming a capitalist, everything. I mean, when I'm trading, when I'm conducting business, when I'm doing my damn books, when I'm trying to keep track of my brick-mortar businesses. Oh, speaking of my brick-mortar businesses, I sold one of them off. That's right, I sold one of them off. We're about to close the deal sometime here in midweek. We're going to get the lawyers involved. Oh, baby, more money, baby. Because let me tell you, that's where investors are starting to invest some of their capital is in these small businesses and individuals that actually have a market share in some sort of a particular market. But anyway, folks, I want to say I'm sorry to all the individuals that are out there that are listening in. We have to start an hour late because of the technical difficulties that we had attempting to schedule a show on here. So I just wanted to, once again, I wanted to say I'm sorry. But it was a dismal day on the markets, and let me tell you, if you happen to have been following me on Twitter, and of course the Twitter name to follow, folks, is Ghost Politics. All one word, no underscores, Ghost Politics. I'm a futures trader, folks. I get up early in the morning trading futures, and the futures market looked horrible. I mean, right off the bat, I was putting out tweets, hey, future markets look bad all the way around, and it was all the way around. I mean, you know, literally, unless you had a few plays in the equities markets, which I eventually tweeted, folks, right before, well, actually about 10 minutes after the market began, you know, I saw that everybody was, you know, pulling out their money. It was a major sell-off. People were cashing out. Other people's were putting their money in from securities, or excuse me, from equities to securities, commodities to securities. Let me tell you something right now, folks. I mean, there was a lot of people selling off, helter-skelter market. We dipped almost to 300 points down on the Dow Jones Industrials as the market opened up today. Almost 300. We may have even hit 300 at one point. It was so damn volatile, it was unbelievable. And what's causing all this? It's the uncertainty, folks. It's the amount of uncertainty that's not just in the economic markets, but just in the globe in general. I mean, not only do we have unrest in the Middle East, we have natural disasters that are inflicting, large modern economies. And not only are natural disasters inflicted upon, the large economy that I'm speaking of in Japan, but now they have a nuclear disaster on their hands. I mean, 140,000 people are told to stay inside their homes as these nuclear reactors are starting to explode and put radiation or radioactive material in the air out there in Japan. It's getting horrible. It's getting disgusting, for Christ's sake. And you take all this into consideration, you can tell by the markets, we're going to go over here in a second, that the investor doesn't know what the hell to do. It's scary out there, man, but what I'd like to say to the investor before I start getting into the markets is don't get pussy whipped, all right? Don't be a bunch of pussies out here, all right? I mean, stick with some fundamentals. Go out there and stick with it, for Christ's sake. I mean, don't you understand that, when something falls, something else has got to give? I mean, today was a completely pussy-whipped perspective of the American markets today. That's what it was. Completely pussy-whipped. And if you want my personal opinion, every investor that, just kind of cashed out and sold off, and literally dropped the Dow Jones Industrials this morning close to 300 points, I think that you should be bitch-slapped by your wife, and you should be forced to hold your wife's purse in the mall, sitting down in that little, center bench area, and you should be forced to sit there for at least a couple of weeks because you're a bitch. All right? The bottom line is, folks, is that fundamentals, profit, and demand, all right, if your stock that you're holding on to encompasses all three of those dimensions, then you should not worry about all this sell-off. All this sell-off is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, a lot of these stocks right now are way oversold, especially the stocks in tech. I don't know what the investors are thinking. I don't think tech has got any future, man. I got to sell off, and I don't know what to do. I mean, was it me, or did the iPad just sell off, the first weekend it was out? I mean, they got a backup now. And, then to be honest with you, all right, to be honest with you, let me explain that the iPad is not the only person that's bringing out the tablet, folks. You've got a lot of other competitors that are bringing out tablets. That means that chip makers have already had pre-signed obligations and pre-signed manufacturer deadlines to, deliver to some of these assemblers of some of these tablets. And come summertime, back to school time, Christmas time, I guarantee you that these tablets, these tablets are going to be selling off the shelves. They're going to make iPads look ridiculous. And to be honest with you, iPads are ridiculous. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to be a hater on the iPad or, the Apple digital culture. Believe me, I know that's really important to some of these pricks. But let's be honest. Every time that an Apple puts out any kind of hardware product, it's always, the processor speed is like a several hundred megahertz slower than the traditional Windows traditional machine that's out in the market. Why is it that the RAM is also less than the traditional Windows machine that's out there on the market? I just don't like the fact that, Apple Computer dishes out their technology like it's crack, like it's crack. Like, here, this is what they'll do. We're going to give them, just the bare bones of what we really can be capable of. And because we package it up in some futuristic casing and, make it, sound kind of funny, hey, let's put an I in front of it and let's call it something. I what? How about an iPod, iPad? There you go. That's perfect. And look, this is what you have out here. I'm telling you, look, all these people selling out on these tablets says to me that not only does the economy have decent credibility to its upswing, but that these people want these electronic gadgets. And right now, I think that technology in chip making and some of these people that are investing in the tablet markets, they're way, way low at this point in time, man. And I think that you couldn't get any lower on some of these stocks. So I would start eyeballing these right away. But there's been a sell-off on all kinds of stuff, folks. Let me tell you. Good God is all I got to say. Anyway, the United States markets here. Let's go down to the Dow Jones Industrials. Believe me, this morning I've been trading all day. I'm tired. I've already had a few drinks. Why do you think I have drinks every afternoon? Why do you think I do this? Do you think that I am some sort of an alcoholic that just likes to booze? No, I just worked all day. Look at my tweets. I've been up since 5:30 in the morning trading futures, for Christ's sake. And not to mention, today, folks, I tweeted today that if you wanted some day trading action, let me tell you something. Major day trading action in the solar and alternative energy stocks. Oh my God! Just because of the investors being scared of anything nuclear or anything that has anything to do with investment in nuclear technologies for energy, it was just sold off completely. And all the investors flocked to all the alternative energy and solar energy stocks. Some of these things were up 15%, 20%, for Christ's sake. The fluctuation levels was unbelievable. Well, seriously, it was unbelievable. They were the only things in the green today, man. Oh, not to mention William and Sonoma. As a matter of fact, let's pull up that chart before we go over the damn markets. Now, what did I say in the previous couple of shows? That stocks are going to go up based upon news. They're going to go up based upon earnings. And Williams and Sonoma today. Let's see if we can get a damn chart on these pricks. Hold on, let me get a chart on it. Anyway, William and Sonoma over here actually posted better than expected earnings. Does anybody happen to know the damn symbol on that? I didn't really get a dibs on that particular stock. I just saw it on my software as being highly volatile and jumping up the roof. Anybody know William and there you go, I found it, never mind. Here it is, WSM, William and Sonoma. All right, well, if you look at that chart right there, all right? Better than expected earnings. And for all those folks that don't know what William and Sonoma is, they're that spot in the mall that's got all the high-tech kitchen gadgets The dining stuff, the high-end, you know what I'm talking about. They're the ones that put all the gadgets in your kitchen, the grinders and the silverware and all this. I mean, they're very high-end, very exclusive. Well, and it's very expensive, mind you. If you ever go into a William & Sonoma store, it's very, very expensive. Well, they were up 12.58% today, on a day where everybody was selling off. Now, why? Because everybody was jumping in on profits. And this is what I keep telling everybody right now. This is what the market's going to start turning itself into, is a hype on profits, a hype on news, a hype on buyouts, a hype on all these types of things. It's not going to be like it is before. So, like I said, these things, these equities that are taking a hit out here, I think that it's just a matter of time before these earnings start proving the validity of these stocks. Because I'm starting to believe that all these earnings, now look, we had good earnings today for Williams & Sonoma. What the hell is Williams & Sonoma? It's that place that Grandma spends her Social Security check on so she can get those, nice, pretty little silvery appliances in her kitchen, so she can make her, Thanksgiving pies and this kind of crap. And this is high-end kitchen, dining room stuff. I mean, this is definitely not for the person that can't afford crap. I mean, this is definitely for the high-end customer, and it's got better than expected earnings this quarter. I mean, do you understand that? I mean, this is why today everybody in a downed market, William & Sonoma went up 12.58%. And let me tell you, I didn't get in on that action. I just saw it on I get some sophisticated investing software out here that pops up all the high gainers right away, high volume, the whole 9 yards. I saw it there, and let me tell you, if you would have just gotten in on that play, you could have made some decent day trading plays. Like I mentioned on my Twitter account, I said everybody should follow the solar and alternative energy sectors, and you'd be making some decent day trading plays. And that's exactly what I was doing all day today. Let me tell you, it's unbelievable. Here, let me go ahead and let me open up one of these Negras here. Anyway, people want to know William & Sonoma. William & Sonoma, like I said, is just a damn place that sells high-end kitchen appliances, kitchenware, and that sort of thing. WSM is the symbol. If you look at the day chart on that, it went up the roof, 12.58% today. And like I said, that's how the market's going to start working itself. It's going to work itself because it's a skittish, helter-skelter market. Do you understand? I mean, it's reacting based upon, impulse. I mean, definitely, just unbelievable. And let me tell you, you know what that says to me? That the economy may be bouncing back. Ben Bernanke today believes that the economy is bouncing back. He believes that even though that, oil prices have spiked, he doesn't necessarily have that much pessimism about our economy. And, I'm starting to believe it. I'm starting to believe the hype here because of all these earnings in these high-end stores. What was it? Macy's a couple of weeks ago posted better than expected earnings. Whole Foods a couple of weeks ago posted better than expected earnings. These are high-end retail locations. High-end, where you have to have money to go in there and actually purchase something from these places. These companies are posting better than expected earnings. So what does that say to me? That says to me that, people are spending some cash. People are spending cash. You want to know why? Because Walmart didn't meet the street's expectations when it posted its earnings. And remember, it's supposed to be the value store. It's supposed to be the store that, sucks people in with its low cost and its low prices, and people just go in there and consume like lab rats running to food pellets. But they posted weak earnings. Why? Because people aren't going there. This is starting to show me that, hey, look, even though we're seeing a lot of skittish activity in the market, I think in the long term, if you're one of these individuals that are investing in the equities and you're in it for the long term, I think that you're going to pan out fairly well. You're going to hold on to one of these stocks if you believe in the three rules of an equity, which is if it's in demand, if it's got profits, all right, and if it's got decent fundamentals. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, if it's something, if your company is in a sector that is in demand, well, then obviously potential profits are in the works. If you hold an equity where the fundamentals are proper, PE ratios are low, debt-to-income ratios are very low, then you should be perfect. All right? Thirdly, profits. Any kind of profits. All right? You have to make sure that your equity that you hold on to not only has demand, but the management company that's managing that particular company is geared towards making profit and not putting more money in their pockets. Like, a lot of these executives like to justify certain expenditures which don't need to be justified, but because they may have a lackadaisical stockholder market cap, and their stockholders don't necessarily pay attention to what's going on, then, that can hurt earnings. There's a lot of things that you need to look into, but inevitably, demand is going to weigh those things out amongst them all. I invest in demand for the long run. When it comes to the long run of investment, demand is key. Do you see demand in the equity that you're holding at this point in time? Do you see 6 months, a year down the road, potentially, whatever sector, whatever industry your equity is in, do you see sales? Do you see profits in that equity? And that's when you need to ask yourself when you're, kind of maneuvering your investments around this helter-skelter market. But anyway, let's just continue on, shall we? The Dow Jones Industrials closed out today at 11,855.40. That's definitely below 12,000 that we're used to. It was negative 137.74 points, and it was a percentage change, a negative 1.15%. Excuse me. It was down 1.15% today, Dow Jones Industrials. S&P 500 closes out today at 1,281.87, a decrease of 14.52 points, a percentage change of 1.21%, or 1.12%. Good God, what am I stumbling over my own tongue? What the God? It's a crap. I'm sorry, I got that one song that we were playing yesterday in my head, for Christ's sake. Just give her a phone. Sorry. Anyway, let's continue on. We got NASDAQ closing out today at 2,667.33, a decrease of 33.64 points, percentage decrease of 1.25%. And the commodities markets, folks, if you thought that you could possibly become a winner in commodities, you got another thing coming. Let me tell you, gold today closed out under 1,400. It closed out today under 1,400. Gold is at 1,395.20. Yeah, and why are people selling off? Because people are cashing out, folks. People are cashing out. Everything across the board right now has gone down. You got WTI sweet crude under $100, $97.37 a barrel. And let me tell you, I hope that nothing really transpires in the Middle East. Now, I know that the day of rage in Saudi Arabia basically was quashed by Saudi Arabian totalitarianism. But now you have Saudi Arabia moving in on Bahrain. Yeah, they're using their military to go into another country to quash the unrest that's happening to keep that particular government or that monarchy, whatever the hell it is in Bahrain, in power. And this could have direct implications on the Middle East stabilization, because now you've got Iran, folks, and what have I been telling you about Iran? Why have I been saying that the United States should be backing up the Iranian resistance underground, clandestinely, as supplying them weapons, doing whatever it takes so that they can fight the Ayatollah and Ahmadinejad and that ridiculous theocracy? Because now look at what they're doing. All right? Now look at what they're doing. They are now provoking the Sunni and the Shiite contingent of Islam against each other in the midst of this unrest hysteria that has implemented itself on the Middle East. And now the Iranians have a pretty good leverage to possibly cause a rift in the Islamic world, to destabilize the whole region, to potentially have them, come in and, take over the leftovers. I mean, let me tell you, this is not a joke. All right, I'm not just saying this because no, this is for real here, man. I mean, as a business person, as a speculator, you have to remember that you have to know your history when you are investing, especially in commodities like oil. And this is what's happening out here. I don't think that a certain segment of the Arab community is going to appreciate that the authoritarian, or strike that, totalitarian monarchy of Saudi Arabia is going into another country to interfere with other Muslims in their own country. I'm telling you, this is not going to have a very good PR response to the Arab community out here, and I still see unrest. I mean, I hope they quash it. I hope they quash it. But what's unfortunate, folks, and we got to be realistic, if they quash the Middle East unrest, it's at the expense of totalitarianism. It's at the expense of a lot of things that we're just going to have to accept just for the sake of petroleum flowing freely throughout the market. So just so that the petroleum doesn't get jeopardized. Now, I know there's people out there saying, "Oh my God, is this what it's all about? Is it just about the oil?" It's unfortunate, folks, but, that's what wars are fought over. They're fought over natural resources because the country with the natural resources can basically modernize themselves in rapid form. Now, let me explain, all right? Let me explain what that means. That means if you happen to be a ruler of a country that has unbelievable oil wealth, I mean, just natural oil underneath your continent that you rule over, that means that you can go out and sell that oil on the world market and make your country unbelievably rich. All right? Unbelievably rich. And what does that mean? That means that your country can invest in all the infrastructure that, most third world countries can invest, because let's be honest, most third world countries don't have vast natural resources. That's why they're third world countries, folks, because unfortunately they weren't blessed with natural resources, and they can't modernize themselves so that they can, project their population into modernity. And you see, this is what oil does for countries. As you can see, after World War I, the Treaty of Versailles basically cut up all these Arab countries that we've come to know and love. All these Arab countries, the reason they have royal families is because the English allowed them to establish their colonies in these particular regions of the world. And to sit over here and say that there's any kind of actual history relating to feudalism when it comes to the Arab world is an utter joke, because there is none. All right? Now, they went from dirt holes that were given to the tribe leaders that helped the English basically overthrow the Ottoman Empire in World War I. That's why these tribes got these settlements out here. That's why Saudi Arabian royal family got Saudi Arabia. That's why the United Arab Emirates family got the United Arab Emirates. That's why all these particular royal families, the Shah of Iran, remember them? I mean, all these royal families got these pieces of land because the English gave it to them. And they gave it to them under the idea of imperialist rule. That's why they are under feudalism. That's why you have kings in Arabia. There's no goddamn precedent in the history of the Arabians or Muslim history that states, oh, yes, we worship a king. They don't worship kings. That's English history. So, anyway, the point is that they went from a dirt hole in the desert that was given to them by the English, and they utilized the rich oil resources that they had in their country to take themselves from some dirt desert hole to where they are today. And let me tell you, Saudi Arabia's got unbelievable buildings, unbelievable infrastructure. I mean, they've got businesses, conducting itself out there. Granted, there's a lot of people that are in discrepancies when it comes to rich and poor. But if you look at, any kind of city, or if you Google up any kind of picture of the cities in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the infrastructure, the buildings, the skyscrapers, everything, it's all lit up. It's all beautiful. Now, how does a country go from a dirt hole to that? Well, they have to get money. And how do you get money? You either have to, sell something that your country has to offer. In this case, they have oil, and they sell it at a rate where it's not ridiculous. And, this is how these people have been able to make so much money and bring themselves into modernity. The problem is it's been at the expense of their people, and their people want a little bit of piece of the money. And at this point, I don't even think it's about the money. I think they've been so radicalized by some of these Islamic fanatics that I don't even think it's about the money anymore. So this is why we're in a situation out here, and I didn't mean to explain all that crap, but I'm just saying this Brent crude at 97.37, I hope it stays that way. I hope it goes down. It would be good for the American economy. It would be good for the equities markets if the crude oil went down. But I'm just not very comfortable, that these investors out here think that the stabilization in the Middle East is that secure for them to sell off on WTI sweet crude and price it at 97.37 a barrel. I just don't think so. I mean, Brent crude even, there was a big sell-off in Brent crude. Brent crude today closed out today at $108.52 a barrel. We've got gasoline futures down $11. Everybody was just selling off. Heating oil futures down $1.18. All right, canola futures down $30. All right, cocoa futures continuing its sell-off, dramatic sell-offs in cocoa. We're going to start seeing cheap candy bars again. Down $134. Coffee futures down $10, $10.35. So we should start seeing some less prices on that. Corn, a continued sell-off. Although I'm going to talk a little bit about corn and a couple of other commodities here in a second, even though we saw traumatic sell-offs today. Corn, minus $30. Cotton, minus $7. Wheat futures, minus $53. Sugar, minus $2.14. Soybean futures, minus $70. Believe it or not, lumber futures was on the plus side, 70 cents. What else do we have? We have oat futures, minus $20. We've got soybean oil futures down $2.50, and wool finally sold off after gradual increases, minus $8. Now let me explain some of these plays that we could potentially look towards the future. Now I understand why people sold off on some of these oil futures. All right. And what I'm saying is, I think that this is a big sell-off on some of these. I think this is a big sell-off on some of these futures here because Japan is going to have to rebuild. Japan is going to have to, we've already pledged food and aid, and they're asking for more because they're in a horrific devastation. I just think that these commodities right now are good plays. All right? And I think that we need to, start entertaining the fact that a lot of these things may be a little oversold. Now, I understand the oil futures were sold off because Japan, being the third largest economy in the world, it's definitely going to be affected by the not only unfortunate 9.0 earthquake that devastated their country, but tsunamis that basically wiped out, a good portion of their country, and not to mention put them under a certain nuclear threat where, good vast amounts of people, and we're going to talk about this in a second, could be exposed to they are exposed to radioactivity. So this is what I'm saying, all right? Anyway, let me continue on. The metals, like I said, we saw a sell-off in the metals, saw a sell-off in everything. You know what spiked today, believe it or not? Not just day trader plays in the solar and alternative energy equities markets, or sectors, excuse me, but it was the damn bonds, believe it or not. Treasuries rose up the ass as if it's a safety play. I mean, don't these investors that are purchasing treasuries realize that this government can't even come up with a budget? They can't even come up with a 2-week extension. You know this, folks, that we're on the verge of another government shutdown. These ass clowns out there in Washington, D.C. are, having a big circle jerk on what kind of cosmetic cutting they want to do, and everybody's pissing and moaning. We already heard Harry Reid talk about cowboy poetry, all this other nonsense. Now, this is what I'm saying. These assholes right now are potentially going to screw us with these, with this default. I mean, do you understand? If the government shuts down, that means that we're going to default, and all these idiots are running to treasuries right now. I don't get it. What are these investors doing? This is what I'm saying. To all the true capitalists that are out there, to all the true capitalists, we're the ones with the balls out here. Don't be running to some damn bearish financial instrument. I mean, we will prevail. I mean, but you have to have some kind of goddamn consistency, Give me a break. Anyway, metals was just off today completely. I mean, copper 418.10. We've got gold at $1,395.20. We've got silver, still, somewhat. I mean, it didn't lose much, but it's still on the downside, $34.27. Cattle feeder futures. All right, cattle feeder futures down 70 cents. Cattle futures down 67 cents. Lean hog futures down 12 cents. Unbelievable. We just talked about oil. Maybe you need to, go back in the archive there. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, 646-652-4869 is the number to call. We're looking for people out here that, are a little apprehensive in coming into this market. That's what we want to know. We want to know, are you a little apprehensive in coming into this market? I don't feel we should be. I mean, I think that what should be of concern is if Japan, because it needs to recover, because it is printing out a lot of money right now. I don't know if you noticed that the central bank in Japan is just printing out money to make sure that there are secure enough cash in these banks to be able to deal with the withdrawals that are needed by people, for potential food buys and survival type materials, that sort of thing, And what I'm saying is what we need to understand right now is that if Japan decides to sell U.S. treasuries, because remember, China's not the only one that owns the United States' debt, all right? I mean, Japan also owns the United States debt. They're the second largest owner of the United States debt. So, look, we're about to go into a possible government shutdown this Friday. It's Tuesday. Let's say that let's just consider that about Wednesday evening, the Japanese, because look, this is going to get kind of desperate here, okay? The Japanese believe that the United States are just not going to come out for any kind of a budget, and they're going to have a government shutdown, Now, let me explain. That means that they're going to default on those treasuries. So what does that mean? The Japanese could unload those treasuries on the world market, unleashing a high level of interest rates and the depleting of that particular the treasuries market. I mean, look, I know that treasuries have been a risk-free investment up until this point, but we have to remember that this bureaucracy, and not just the American government, but governments worldwide, have been completely irresponsible with our money. And what I mean by our money, not just taxpayer money, but individuals that invested in countries. I'm talking about the individuals that actually bought the treasury bonds for whatever given country out here. I mean, these were supposed to be risk-free, tax-beneficial financial investments, and now it looks like anybody who invested in any of these secure bets unfortunately may lose all their capital. I don't know. I mean, and this is not just United States federal debt. I mean, I read today that cities and states have a combined debt. All the cities and states in America have a combined debt of $3.2 trillion. Okay, and this is why you have states trying to renegotiate these ideas of collective bargaining with these public unions that these morons in the public unions just don't seem to be comprehending through their thick skulls. Look, we're in debt, all right? I mean, there's no more money to put into your inflated budgets anymore, all right? And not to mention that we are 9th in education, you morons. How in the hell can you justify all this, making 42% more than the average private sector worker? How can a public union laborer justify getting paid over 42% more than the average private sector laborer when they're not even producing a decent product when they're working? And one product in particular is the students of America. I mean, look at the students of America. We are 9th, and Obama said this yesterday in his speech to some education forum. We are 9th in education in the world, and yet we blow billions upon billions of dollars in education, and it's sick. I mean, do you understand? This is why I keep saying that we as the true capitalists need to represent ourselves throughout the world. And it doesn't matter what country you live in, you have to remember that, in essence, what we need to strive for is capitalism, and what we need to advocate is the disassemblage of any bureaucratic system that's going to halt the progress of humanity by regulating marketplaces. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And not only that, overtaxation. Oh, yeah, overtaxation. I mean, let's talk a little bit about taxes, shall we? In Miami-Dade County, all right, in Miami-Dade County, they actually are trying to recall their mayor. Yeah, they're trying to recall their mayor out here because, let me explain the story here, all right? This Carlos Alvarez, who happens to be the mayor of Miami-Dade County, all right, decided that, hey, our economy's getting hit. They're one of the highest foreclosure rates, believe it or not, out there in Miami. A lot of business has been lost. I mean, it was once a vibrant city. Now it's, rather dangerous because of the economic downturn that hit that city. Well, now, according to this guy, and let me get his name out again because he's proud of this, Mayor Carlos Alvarez, all right, he decided that he was going to increase property taxes. And this is a real estate market that's already depleted. I mean, I couldn't even tell you the exact number of foreclosed homes, but I'm pretty sure it's high because it was one of the cities that was highlighted during the whole real estate crash. I mean, there's just, condominiums out there that are just, sitting there vacant. Because it just completely went kaput, for Christ's sake. It was Miami, it was Las Vegas, it was San Jose, it was Los Angeles, it was Arizona, these types of big, huge markets that were overinflated that just went kaput. Well, anyway, Carlos Alvarez says, hey, our budgets are down, we're not making much money as a government, not too many people are paying us taxes, so we're going to increase property taxes. Oh, yeah, and not to mention, I think that the public employees deserve a pay raise, too. Yeah. I mean, do you see how bureaucrats are? They are going to raise property taxes in an already depleted real estate market in Miami-Dade County, all right? And whoever happens to own property and still be paying on the property note for their property now gets a good swift kick in the ass with property taxes increased by Carlos Alvarez, mayor of Miami. And now, not to mention that he has an increase on property taxes, but now he wants to increase the pay of city employees. Oh, yeah, or the county employees, Miami-Dade County, excuse me. Yeah, I'm not joking, man. I mean, it's just unbelievable that this person is going to sit here and actually, tax the remainder of all the true capitalists that continue to stay and pay real estate taxes in that city. He is going to damn them with more taxes while his buddies in the Miami-Dade County bureaucratic system all get pay raises. I'm serious. I'm not joking, man. I mean, this is just a disgrace, and this is why I continue to say to everybody out there, I would much prefer private enterprise have more of an influence over our lives than some bureaucratic power that cares nothing about itself but its own autocratic rule, and it's a disgrace. Anyway, they're recalling them. You got a millionaire out there, or a billionaire car dealer named Norman Brahman. He's finally saying, look, this is ridiculous, all right? I mean, he's saying the county's struggling to recover from a recession. Unemployment is at 12%, and the foreclosure rate has been one of the nation's highest. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is what he's saying. I mean, why exactly are you going to raise taxes on an already depleted market? It makes no sense. But you see, these bureaucrats don't care. Just like these people in Wisconsin are sitting here and, putting the children as pawns out here in protests, holding the education system hostage, threatening state senators out there because they don't care how much it costs. They don't care if they bankrupt the country. They don't care if they overtaxate the damn private sector. All they care about is their continuity in their job and their increases in their perks and their salaries, and also they like to limit their responsibilities. Every time that they get a pay raise, any one of these bureaucrats, anytime they get a pay raise, they like to limit their responsibility. And that's why none of these bureaucrats do a damn thing. That's why anytime you ask a bureaucrat, anytime that you're angry at a bureaucracy and you want to get some answers, all you're going to do is play telephone tag with about 8 different bureaucratic levels blaming each other for one mishap, because that's how bureaucracy works. It's pathetic. It's ridiculous. I mean, good God, let me take a chug of beer on that note, for Christ's sake. I mean, good God. Anyway, 646-652-4869. We're talking about a whole bunch of factors here, folks, but like I said, I know there was a major sell-off today. It's a helter-skelter market. People don't know where the hell they don't know where the hell to invest. Nothing was up today except for Treasury notes, except for bonds, and I don't understand why bonds are a secure bet in this uncertainty. I don't understand how bonds is a safe financial instrument when our government is on the brink of defaulting on their debt this Friday. They can't even come up with an extension. You see, they thought they had an extension for another 2 weeks. Remember I told you folks that, 2 Fridays ago was supposed to be the Friday when the government was supposed to shut down, and then they somehow negotiated some kind of extension, and then they extended the debate for another 2 weeks by funding the government another 2 weeks. Well, the end of that 2 weeks is this Friday. And now they can't come to an agreement, not even for an extension, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's bad enough they can't come up with a budget. Now they can't come up with an extension. And now if we default, the American government defaults on its debt, all these people, with all due respect, that are, trying to go safe place into government treasuries, I think they're going to be losing their shirt, man. I mean, I just don't understand why, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think that I would be bullish on a lot of different other things at this point in time. But like I said, it's a helter-skelter market. In my personal opinion, as I've talked about earlier in the broadcast, the market is gauging its profitability based on news, based on mergers and acquisitions. And if you look at all the gainers in the markets, I just put one as an example today, Williams in Sonoma, which is a high-end retail kitchen and dinner appliance, dinnerware type of store, very high-end, very high-priced. It had better than expected earnings today, and I'm making the correlation now. I'm starting to believe the hype that maybe we are bouncing back. And now that we're seeing retracted oil prices, The oil prices are starting to retract for a variety of different reasons. And like I said, I hope that the Middle Eastern unrest somehow solves itself, because if it does, and oil goes back down to $85 a barrel or even lower, I think that we have a real shot at bouncing back in a double-dip recession, man. And I think that you'll see in this downturn that I prognosticated, by the way, in this downturn that we're seeing here, I think that eventually you're going to see those that can basically scrape up a market share in this basically rebound. I think that's what we're going through right now, is a rebound, and we're seeing people doing so. I mean, to me, I just sold a business today, folks. I mean, I sold one of my brick-mortar businesses today, so that's one less thing I got to freaking worry about. But I got a pretty good chunk of change for it, man. I mean, what's so beautiful about brick-mortar businesses, if you have the right recipe, if you have the right blueprint, you open up a brick-mortar business and you generate profits, all right? You generate profits and, take those profits and try to, maneuver them in ways to where it benefits the company, while at the same time benefiting you for your work into the company. Now, the thing is that once you've accumulated so much capital and so much salary, so much perks, whatever the case might be, you've already paid back your investment, then some, and now you can basically make it somebody else's problem with a good lump sum coming your way to basically transition that particular business. Anyway, I think that at this point in time, I mean, just looking at the way corporate earnings are coming out, I mean, like I said, not just Williams and Sonoma today. If you look at it, it was up 12.5% today. Today alone, because of good earnings. I'm telling you, this is how the helter-skelter market's going to be from now on, folks. Anytime there's earnings, anytime there's any kind of buyout, you're going to see dramatics, dramatic increases. And all you have to do is hold on to one of them stocks. If you're a long-term investor, you hold on to one of them stocks, and like I said, you just need the three keys to hold on to a stock. Fundamentals. That means low PE ratio. That means low debt-to-income ratios. That means good fundamentals and a good management. Two, you got to make sure that whatever stock you have is in demand. If it's going to be in demand, even if the market is not treating the stock well at this point in time, remember, the stock market is like any market, It's a market. Even if the stock market isn't treating it well, if it's got demand, man, you're in the money, or eventually going to be in the money, especially if you're a long-term investor. The third thing you need, profit. I mean, if you look in the past couple of quarters, or if you see forecasts by, different analysts, or if you look at the books in general, you can actually get a prospectus from the company itself. All you got to do is call their public relations line on any one of these companies. They will mail you a prospectus giving you everything, what they expect, what they think, what the money's going in, R&D, the whole 9 yards. But profit, man. You got those three things working for your stock. If you've got those three things to hold on to your stock, no matter if it is getting beat up in the market. Remember, today, I don't know how everything closed up, but today, all 30 stocks in the Dow Jones Industrial, all right? And believe it or not, the Dow Jones Industrials is just 30 stocks, believe it or not. I know you look at 12,000, you look at these big numbers, it's just 30 companies, man, all right? All 30 of those companies were in the red today. I mean, they were all taking losses. And, how is that possible? What, is the world just going to stop? I mean, even if there are more natural disasters, God forbid, even if there are, unbelievable events, it doesn't matter. The capitalist game will continue to rise and continue to go on, because without this system, what do we have? Without this system, what do we have? We have chaos. And I don't want chaos. You want to know what chaos is? Why don't you ask somebody that was in Egypt during this whole supposed revolutionary uprising that Google and Wael Ghanem inspired, that was some sort of, great contribution to human enlightenment. Why don't you ask some of the regular citizens of Egypt, what chaos feels like? All right, why don't you ask Lara Logan, that poor reporter that got fondled and, sexually assaulted by a gangload of Egyptian Yehudis, just covering their stupid little riot, just covering their damn supposed revolution. Here she is, she's getting, fondled by a bunch of, freaked out, Yehudis up in here. Just ask them how chaos feels. It's not pretty, all right? It's not pretty whatsoever, and I don't want it. And this is why I'm saying capitalism will always be around. That's all there is to it. It's the idea that motivates. It's the idea that inspires. I mean, if anybody disagrees with me, how the hell did we get to the Industrial Revolution? How the hell did we get to the Scientific Revolution? How did we get to the Technological Revolution? How do we do these things? Capitalism, baby, and the incentive for one person to capitalize on one's labor. So, all these damn speculators and all these damn investors that are skittish, I mean, grow some balls for Christ's sake, man. Good God. I mean, there was no consistency in the freaking market, man. They all had their damn balls in their wife's purse today. Anyway, 646-652-4869. I'm sorry, folks. We're heading into the second hour of the True Capitalist radio broadcast. Of course, I'm your host, the man they call Ghost. And once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to say I'm sorry for starting the show today an hour later than usual. We had technical difficulties here at Blog Talk Radio, and unfortunately we had to schedule the broadcast an hour later. Now, I don't know if we're going to go the whole 3 hours, but we're going to see. We're going to see how the show goes and see how the rhythm goes, all that stuff, and, maybe it'll be 3 hours or maybe it'll just be 2 hours. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, 646-652-4869, area code 404, you're on the air.
Hey, Ghost, how's it going? It's Billy D.
Hey, what's up, Billy D? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. The tough days in the market, but it'll all bounce back, like you said, and I'm not worried, really, in the slightest about this all turning around.
Well, I'm very optimistic now on the American economy, given the fact that you've had not just Williams and Sonoma today, but that's just one precursor of a variety of different precursors of earnings that have come out. I mean, first of all, Walmart didn't meet the street's expectations, so that means that people aren't going out trying to scour for deals. They're not out there, buying the cheap meat and buying the garbage from. Yep. Well, I shouldn't call Walmart garbage, but you know what I'm saying.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, they're out there going to Whole Foods. Believe it or not, Whole Foods posted better than expected earnings. Macy's, posting better than expected earnings these past couple of weeks. And that's an indicator to me that, maybe we are bouncing back. People are spending their money. They're feeling a little bit more secure. I think that, because people are hiring, I'm starting to believe it. I think that maybe we are, starting to bounce back. Now, I'm starting to see a pullback in oil. Now, I don't know if that's going to stay. I hope that it kind of does at this point in time. I actually hope it pulls back to about $80 a barrel, maybe even $70. Because I think that we could possibly seriously bounce back as a major economy and reassert ourselves in the global economic system, given the current circumstances in the international community, man.
Absolutely. Hey, I really had two things. One, first is a statement. The second one is a question for you. The first is, as far as, like you said, the one thing that I'm looking at is, once again, you're just able to buy a lot of these companies that are primed to blow up or explode or have some major growth later in the year, or perhaps starting summertime. You're able to buy them right now in a discount. So, I mean, this is kind of a breather in what was looking to be a bull market pretty much all the way through this year until we had a few little hiccups here.
Certainly, and acts of God, definitely. I mean, with the earthquake in Japan. But if we look at this as a strategic capitalist perspective, and unfortunately, as a capitalist, you got to eliminate the emotional factor. Not to say you can't be an emotional person. I mean, I'm definitely, hearts and prayers are going out to the true capitalists out there in Japan. I hope everything's going fine for them, that sort of thing. And they're just continuously suffering, man. Not just a damn tsunami and an earthquake, but now they got nuclear fallout that they're having to deal with because of these nuclear reactors that Now, I mean, I don't know who to blame. I mean, I think the Japanese government was a tad bit irresponsible by not keeping their people up to date with what the hell is actually going on in those nuclear plants. But now you've got a lot of people that were exposed or possibly exposed to radiation, and I don't know what that's going to do to Japan. Remember, Japan's the third largest economy in the world, and if I'm not saying anything. I'm not trying to speculate. I don't want anybody to run with this because SEC could come knocking on my door saying, "Hey, you suggested this." No, I'm just entertaining ideas here. But depending on the severity of this particular nuclear fallout caused by all these nuclear, or I don't know if they're nuclear meltdowns. I'm going to start calling them nuclear meltdowns now because they keep giving us false information. Or at least the Japanese government keeps giving out their people false information. But I'm saying that, it could eliminate, and this is just horrible, but it could eliminate Japan as the third largest economy in the world. I think that, if there's some severity that happens to the people of Japan because of this radioactive fallout, I think this could have serious implications on the markets. And at the same time, bolster others within the international community for a variety of different reasons that I really don't want to discuss at this point in time because it would sound rather harsh and a lot of heartless.
I understand.
But to be honest with you, I think that this radioactive situation that the poor people of Japan are going through right now, I think that it could affect the global markets by possibly eliminating Japan as a major player. It's horrible. I mean, and the only reason I'm saying that is because I can't see, people continuing to live on the Japanese continent, depending on the severity of these nuclear meltdowns. Now, remember, the reason it's so serious is because all these nuclear plants are kind of lined up all one by one aside each other. I mean, typically when nuclear plants are built in America, there's one
spread out very
whatever you call it, nuclear housing unit of these rods that develop these nuclear powers. They're pretty spread out throughout the country in America, but in Japan, I mean, they're pretty close together. In this area here, there's 6 of these containment apparatuses. And 3 or 4 of them are blowing up, and they're blowing up one by one next to each other because of the intense heat and the intense pressure that's being caused here. That is really what's causing the devastation in Japan and the radioactive fallout.
Yep.
And the investors today, I don't know if you invested in anything that has anything to do with nuclear or uranium enrichment or anything like that. It took a tremendous dive today, and I know people are kind of pushing the gun here, trying to say no to nuclear energy. But like I said, this is probably once in a lifetime thing. This is a 9.0 earthquake. And even though we had a 9.0 earthquake in Japan, a tsunami, I think that Japan still, I'm not saying that they, had it better, but I think that they're well prepared, given the fact that this was a cataclysmic earthquake that literally pushed Japan, what was it 5 meters closer to the United States or something to that effect? I mean, it altered the Earth's axis. I don't know if you've noticed this. I have a time on my watch that's kept up by kinetic energy because I got one of these little fancy ass watches. And I haven't changed this watch or set this watch. And I just keep it, whenever daylight savings comes around, just keep it and just remember that it's an hour ahead or it's the same time or whatever the case might be. And let me tell you, I've noticed that we have been losing minutes. I don't know if you've noticed this. I mean, we're losing minutes here. For the past couple of years that my watch has been going on. I mean, it doesn't go off. I mean, it's one of those kinetic energy watches that all you got to do is just wear it, and as you're wearing it, it'll get the energy from your movements, and it'll power the watch throughout the whole time. You'll never have to change the battery, never have to change the time, and that's why I bought it.
Right.
But now that, we're so, I guess, used to cell phone times and the times on our, cable provider boxes or the times on our computers or GPS systems or whatever the case might be, that they are actually in tune with the atomic clock. And it seems to me that, I don't know, are we losing minutes here? I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to be, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist. But like I said, I mean, what's happening here in Japan is not something that is of normal activity. And to sit here and chastise, nuclear energy or any specific company or any specific person is just, I think it's irresponsible at this point is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I do know a little bit on utilities, and I can tell you that I know a lot of that nuclear site over there specifically. It was an older unit in the U.S. where basically what they have is if there's a power failure, because they have to account and plan for those things when they build these places, they have what basically diesel generators. Well, they just bottom line was they didn't have the multiple redundancy generators, or which basically just having multiple generators. So where here in the U.S. they have, on a lot of the newer ones, they have 5 to 6 different generators, but which is why they ended up with the overheating and everything, because they couldn't be pumping the liquid in to cool the thing. But yeah, there's really no one to blame when you look at this. But getting into one of the questions I had was,
go for it.
As far as some plays here, I've been watching to see what the market's been doing. 2 of them. One is going to be now obviously you're looking at a couple companies that have been beat up here over the last couple of days. One of them in particular is Hitachi, HIT.
All right.
Dropped 15%. A pretty good company. I mean, obviously they've been hit pretty good by this. Today they actually increased a little bit, but yesterday they dropped 15%. Today they went up a few pennies, but I kind of see some value in that, as well as what about natural gas? Because opposite, if you're not going to be, if these uranium ones for a short-term play, uranium selling off, natural gas might be a play.
Natural gas may be a play. Now, let me explain why I'm a little apprehensive on natural gas. First of all, when the earthquakes happen in Japan, and this has nothing to do with the tsunamis. This goes from the inner cities. There's footage that's coming out of Japan where you're seeing buildings on fire. Well, that's because they have natural gas generators or natural gas tanks in their homes. This is how they cook their food. This is how they heat themselves. There's a lot of reasons why they heat their own water,
right?
That sort of thing. And they have a lot of these little mobile natural gas containers. They usually have them all over the house. I don't know if you've noticed that. They just all over the house. I just think that, first of all, that as a alternative form of energy to nuclear or to coal or to any of the other traditions is kind of a long shot. Now, I know that T. Boone Pickens is trying to come out and say, hey, natural gas instead of actual gasoline. And I think that's a feasible idea, natural gas being an alternative to fuel. But the problem is that the infrastructure to build such a vast idea of alternative energy is such a risky proposition. We already tried, and we're still funding this, believe it or not, this corn ethanol crap, where we're turning food that should be, given out to people to eat. We're turning corn into ethanol, which is doing nothing. And we actually have small infrastructure out here. I don't know if you have it in your state, but out here in Texas, we actually have ethanol pump stations. So if you happen to have one of these ethanol, based vehicles, you can actually pump this corn oil into your damn, vehicle, and you're supposed to be saving the earth. Well, what happened? All this investment that the country has invested in corn ethanol, not only has it been an utter failure in keeping the environment clean because it's even more of a dirtier gas to, burn than regular gasoline.
Absolutely.
But it has caused a rise and a scarcity in commodities that is pathetic and ridiculous. And this is why we're seeing all these spikes in food. We're going to continue to see these spikes in food because we're burning it in our cars, man. It's stupid. And you see, we're already in a crunched budget. There's not much money to go around. Our country may go into bankruptcy here this next Friday. So I'm saying is I don't see much room for natural gas in the short term because I don't think that there's no individual that's going to invest in the infrastructure because it has to be subsidized. None of these idiots are going to put up their own money to put up natural gas stations and design natural gas cars and natural gas dispensaries. I mean, there's got to be a lot of infrastructure to do this, and it's a risk. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. Gas at this point in time is just the only fuel at this point in time that fuels our transportation modes. There's no other viable alternative. I wish there was, believe me, but it's the cheapest and it's the most common form out here in the world, and it sucks, but I mean that's just the way it is. Now you talk about Hitachi. I'm a little apprehensive about some of these Japanese stocks, unless you got to look into Hitachi. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm waiting a little bit for it to drop down a little bit more. I'm sorry, I was just waiting for it to drop. I was thinking, I'm not pulling the trigger anytime soon. I'm still waiting. I want to wait and see how this unfolds. But
I hear you. But you have to look into Hitachi's infrastructure. Is Hitachi, how much percentage of its manufacturing base is coming out of Japan? As a matter of fact, because of this Japan tsunami and earthquake and nuclear meltdown, this horrific tragedy, we're going to have a lot of scarcity in a lot of things, believe it or not. I'm looking at GM, even though it's been beat up because these investors can't see a growth stock that hit them in their ass, although it's paying pretty good dividends. So, even though you might be getting a beat up stock, the dividends ain't bad. Either way, I'm seeing GM, on the upside, for the short and long term, because not to mention are they profitable, even though they're beat up. The scarcity of cars that are coming out of Japan. They've already talked about how Toyotas aren't going to be able to get a lot of the parts that they used to manufacture out of their plants in Japan. Same with Honda, same with a lot of these Japanese companies. Now, if they have an infrastructure and a supply line that can bypass whatever assets were damaged in the natural disaster in Japan, then I would think any Japanese company is a good play that has that ability. But at this point in time, I think, because they are Japanese, they were, going to make possibly the most investment in their own country. And I think that we may see some scarcity out here. I think that, some American car companies are good plays. I think that American, tech companies also, you have to look into, where the tech companies get their parts. You got to look at where the chip manufacturers get their parts, and if it's out of Japan, that's going to cause some scarcity. So either way, scarcity for the short term is going to pull back, but if they have the infrastructure to still produce, the profit margin is going to be there. That just means scarcity means the higher price it's going to be. Yep. And if people are in a good economy, as we're seeing Williams and Sonoma today, I hate to keep plugging them, but I can't believe it. I mean, I go into that store with my wife every goddamn time I'm in the damn mall, and I'm looking at like a $50 fork in there, shit like that. I'm serious. You got these ridiculous high price, like a $50 beer mug or something. It's ridiculous high price nonsense. But that shows me, that shows me that the economy may be bouncing back, that these people may be spending their money, and I think that if we can just kind of hold off this damn oil price, and this oil price can come down, I think that the economy could bounce back. I'm hoping. Now, what could cause us to go back once again? These damn renegotiations of state budgets. Because if states default, if municipalities default, well, that's money out of somebody's pocket, and it's going to be the investor's pocket. It's going to be 401ks. It's going to be a lot of people. And as a result, you're going to put a lot of people out of work, and there's just a lot of factors. So, definitely you want to look for something long-term or quick short-term. Anything mid-term, like, hey, maybe I'll hold it for the year, that sort of thing, absolutely not. Everything that I've said to invest in is long-term investment.
I hear you. Same here, man. Same here. Ghost,
but I mean, if you look at Hitachi, do you know if Hitachi has infrastructure out here, or is it mostly in Japan?
I'm going to have to do a little bit more work on it. I know that they definitely announced that some of their facilities were impacted. I think they said 15 were impacted out there. So it sounds like they're pretty well they have a pretty good infrastructure over there. As far as over here, I'm not sure. I know they have. They're kind of like. It sounds like they're kind of like in competition or do a lot of the. They're kind of like a GE of Japan almost, where they do kind of a little bit of everything as far as products go. But
yeah, I know. I see Hitachi names on all kinds of crap. I mean, no kidding.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research on it, but I was just trying to get what your thoughts were on that. But yeah, I was, the other thing I thought on that, like you said, was GM, because if Toyota, Honda, and Nissan and some of these are gonna production's gonna be affected, at least in the short term. I mean, someone's gonna have to. The demand for cars is still gonna be there. So.
As a matter of fact, I foresee, believe it or not, a shortage in cars here. I mean, at least in the short term, because remember, people buy cars during the summertime, going into fall, and I just don't see that cars are going to be mass produced as they are. Remember, the biggest car companies come out of Japan. Toyota's the biggest car company, even though it was just overtaken by GM once again.
Yeah.
But it's one of the largest car companies in the world. Now these people are going to have to, curb their production. Not to mention that, these parts are going to have to be, found somewhere else. And I just don't know, if the Japanese companies were prepared for such a thing. And I think that, good plays would be American car companies, not just GM, but maybe even Ford, maybe other car industries that are not impacted by this particular catastrophe.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Ghost, I always appreciate it, man.
No problem, man. I appreciate you calling, bro.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, Billy D.
Yep, take it easy.
All right, man. You take it easy, brother.
All right, bye.
Later. That was Billy D. Williams there, man, talking, asking some questions, and those are very appropriate questions, folks. I mean, when you're an investor, you're looking for plays. You're looking for ideas. You're looking for ways to, spread your money out. These are good questions. In my personal opinion, though, natural gas has got a long way to go. It's a flat investment. I don't see it going anywhere. I mean, maybe a long term, but that's even a risk. And Hitachi, it could be a good play because it's gotten beaten up, but once again, one has to do their investigation to see how impacted they are by this catastrophe in Japan. So anyway, 646-652-4869. I want to thank Billy D. Williams for calling up. We're in the second hour of the True Capitalist Radio broadcast. We're about 18 minutes in. I'm your host, the man they call Ghost, and once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in with me. If you could please retweet the broadcast and spread the word like wildfire, blogtalkradio.com/ghost. is the name to, or not the name, but is the link to send people, and have them kick back with us here in the live broadcast, have them call in, have them ask any questions, that sort of thing. But anyway, before we got to Billy D's call, we were talking about how Miami-Dade County is trying to recall their mayor, and the reason they're trying to recall their mayor is because this mayor decided to raise property taxes in an already depleted real estate market. All right, I mean, like I said, Miami-Dade County is one of the highest real estate foreclosure rates out here. He decides to raise taxes on the people that stayed there and continue to pay taxes there, while at the same time giving pay raises to every county employee. Isn't that just such bureaucratic crap, folks? Doesn't that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside? I mean, Jesus Christ, this is what I keep telling you. These bureaucrats don't care. They're heartless. All right? They don't care if people are suffering, they got foreclosed. They're going to raise your taxes because they deserve to get paid. And once they get to these bureaucratic positions, haven't you noticed, folks, that they just think they have the most ultimate power in the world? Oh, my God, especially when you have to deal with these assholes in brick-mortar businesses. Let me explain something here. I have a couple of brick-mortar businesses. I just sold one off for a substantial profit. But, man, to do business out here, you have to go through such bureaucratic municipal crap. All right? You got to go to some idiot, to make sure that you can even open up a business through certificate of occupancy. All right? And then if you want to put a sign on your damn business, you got to go and make sure that it's under some zoning, ordinance that allows you to, give you a certain signage on your goddamn store that you're leasing out or buying or your property. You got to go to the government and say, all right, can I put this sign? Can I do this? You got to get approval. You got to get permits. You got to get and you got to deal with a different goddamn bureaucrat every time. Every time you got to deal with some other bureaucrat, some inspector, some this, some that, and every one of these assholes act like the biggest jerks in the world because they know that, oh, look at me, I'm bureaucratic. I've got power, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm glad they're recalling that asshole in Miami-Dade County. What the hell is his name? Some Cuban or something. I don't know. Carlos Alvarez. That's the mayor of Miami-Dade County. Get him the heck. Get him out of there. You're going to sit over here and up the taxes on property owners and then give the pay raise to county employees. That's a disgrace. That's just an utter disgrace. You know that? Anyway, 646-652-4869. If you're wondering why we're, kind of late in the broadcast, folks, we had technical difficulties in BTR, so I'm not sure. This may be just a 2-hour broadcast. It may be a 3-hour broadcast. I don't know. It depends on how many people are in here after the second hour, so let's check it out. Anyway, let's take some calls here. If you want to call in, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you think it's okay for the mayor to go out and raise property taxes so he can give it to his cronies that are in the municipal governments and the county governments? Huh? You juice the taxpayer like that? 646-652-4869. Area code 213's in the house. What's going on?
Yeah, baby, I'm looking at what's going on in Japan right now, and I'm kind of scared, Ghost. I'm kind of scared. Like, I live in California, and if the wind's going to bring this nuclear waste over to where I live, that's my question, Ghost.
Well, that's a good question. No, hold on. Let me put you on hold because you can't keep that kid quiet every time you call up. I mean, that kid is obviously got diaper rash or you need to change a diaper. But anyway, that's besides the point. That's a good question that you bring up. I know that you're calling from area code 213. You're from California. You're wondering if this nuclear fallout could actually bring in radioactive material or radioactive debris or radioactive smoke or whatever it is, radioactive particles in the air into California, into Seattle, into Oregon. In my personal opinion, I think that's a very highly probable scenario. Now, I'm not trying to hyper-sensationalize. I don't want to scare anybody. I don't want anybody on the West Coast to be like, hey, man, what am I going to do? But, yeah, I think that's a very high probability there, 213, and I would be rather concerned. I think at the very minimum, you should tape up the cracks of your house, buy some iodine. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a very scary situation. I mean, have you called your local municipality?
Well, I call unemployment today to make sure I get my check, and they said everything would be all good. But I don't trust the government. You know what I'm saying? They tell me things that I want to hear, but I don't trust them.
Hold on. You said you don't trust the government? You don't trust the government? You're collecting government fees? You're collecting all this government entitlement?
Hey, look, the only thing I trust the government for is my checks, baby. Anything else, I don't even fuck with them. You know what I'm saying? I don't even believe what they saying.
So what kind of precautions are you going to take if there happens to be some downwind of that radioactivity that's happening in Japan or the bursting of radioactivity into the atmosphere? I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to take some precautions, or what's going to happen?
Baby, I'm just going to live my life to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do what I got to do to feed my kids. And if some nuclear cloud comes over me, I ain't God. What I got to do with that, Ghost? I can't help that. My government can't even help me with that. They can lie about it all they want, but it's just not. Government can't do nothing for me, baby. They give me my check. That's about all they can do. They can't stop that nuclear cloud, baby.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would be a little concerned over there. I mean, are you at least a little concerned? I know you got a crying baby over there. Are you a little concerned about that baby getting some nuclear fallout, for Christ's sake?
No, baby, whatever. You know, I give my baby Similac all day. You know what I'm saying? I give my baby Similac, and I collect my checks on the first of the month, and that's all I can do, Ghost. I can't worry about what these governments do.
Yeah,
because apparently they're not prepared.
You know, maybe, just maybe, if God forbid, if there happens to be any kind of a nuclear fallout headed your direction, you know, maybe for the sake of the taxpayer, you know, your kid will grow like a third arm or something, and you can get off welfare, you know, join him in a freak show, and, you know, maybe actually make some capital off that. You know what I mean?
Nah, my baby grows a third arm, baby. I'm gonna be rich. You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna be rich.
My baby. I'm gonna be rich, baby. I'm gonna be working the circuit. You know what I'm saying? My kid gonna go all around the country, showing off his third arm and showing them what the government can do for him.
Anyway, get this idiot. Okay, get him off! This idiot's not living in the same reality that we're all living in, for Christ's sake. Anyway, on a serious note, folks, seriously, I mean, for the people on the West Coast, I mean, this is a serious matter that people should be trying to at least ask somebody within municipality about. I mean, ask if there's any kind of contingency plan, because remember, especially you folks in California, you pay exuberant amount of taxes, you know, to keep these damn bureaucrats in power. And, you know, this is the time that they're supposed to go to work for you. You know, this is the time when they're supposed to, you know, prove their pay. So, you know, this is a very good question to ask these emergency management people. You know, this is a good question to ask. I'm not joking. I mean, nuclear fallout is not a joke. And there's a lot of nuclear plants that are supposedly releasing this nuclear radioactive activity or radioactive material into the atmosphere. And depending on the wind, not only could it damage, you know, the California or the West Coast, it could damage Russia, it could damage, you know, people within the Asian Peninsula. It could damage Hawaiians. I mean, it's really, really scary. I think people should really be asking some questions about this. But what can I say? You know, I mean, we're only at the whim of the individuals that are supposed to be doing their jobs, and you know, it's up to a third party to make that judgment call on whether or not they're doing their jobs. You know. Anyway, 646-652-4869 is the number to call. I know we're living in scary times, folks. You know? I'm serious. I mean, we're living in some scary-ass times. That's why I'm saying, you know, for all the alcoholics and drug addicts out there that just got clean, I mean, you know, what for? You know what I mean? I mean, seriously, that's why I drink every time after I, you know, fulfill my business out there during the times of the stock markets, early in the mornings in futures and options trading. After I'm making sure I'm getting profits from my brick mortar businesses, I mean, I'm drinking. You know, I'm drinking to kick back. As a matter of fact, I've got myself a new, you know, I'm not even going to say the name of the beer because Miller Coors doesn't want me to promote their beer anymore. They think that, you know, it was a disgusting taste. They thought it was in disgusting taste, me referring to the black model on their can as a Negra and the white. Even though Mexicans have been doing it out here in Texas for years, refer to their white model on their can as a Weta, and they just didn't appreciate it. But anyway, I'm drinking that because, you know, I mean, it just reminds me of my old man. It was my old man's drink. You know, he was a hard-working SOB, my old man. So every time he'd fall asleep. You know, here I am, a little ghost over here. You know, I wanted to be like my pops because he was just such a badass. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this guy would kick somebody's ass if anybody like talked at him like looked at him with a second look. For Christ's sake, a hard-working bastard, man. That my old man. And he'd come home, he'd drink some beers, and you know he'd leave them out, man. You know, because he'd pass out. You know, basically, my old man didn't know how to go to sleep. He just knew how to pass out. You know what I'm saying? He just knew how to pass out, man. I mean, he'd just come home from work, and, you know, if he didn't, you know, have a few beers, he would stay up to all hours of the night, unless he, you know, had some beers and he passed out, for Christ's sake. And little ghost over here would get a couple of cans and say, I want to be like my old man. I want to be like my daddy. And I'd crack open a can and taste it, and, man, I'd be like, bleh! Oh, my God. I remember being a kid with, I couldn't believe that my old man was drinking this crap. It tasted like old bitter chicken piss or something. I couldn't even explain, you know, the taste, but it's funny how those types of impacts, you know, that, you know, kind of make a sensual imprint on the fragments of your mind. You know, it's funny how the mind works that way, and that's why I get these things, man. It's my old man's drink, and that's why I drink them. So I know that I do drink a Crown Royal Reserve, you know, Johnny Walker Blue, Macallan, aged 30, 40 years. I know I drink that kind of stuff, folks, but, you know, I like to consider myself a working man still, even though, you know, I'm doing other things than the old school working man used to do. But I'm busting my ass, man. I'm waking up at 5:30 looking at the futures markets, you know, looking at the options markets, checking out equity plays, you know, doing some day trading, you know, maneuvering around in commodities and maneuvering around everywhere. And I think that everybody should consider doing that as well, folks. I mean, you know, give me a break. Anyway, the point is I like to drink after a good day. So, you know, cheers to everybody out there. Cheers. And all you people that are sitting here, you know, trying to criticize me for boozing a little bit, why don't you look around you, huh? I mean, these people are popping Prozacs. They're popping Xanax, you know. You know, one kid actually had the audacity to, you know, because I do have teachers that come into some of these establishments that I own, folks, and, you know, I'll talk to them. You know, I remember, I'm not a jerk. You know, they're spending money. You know, they're spending money at my place. I'm not going to, you know, you stupid teacher scumbag. I'm not going to say that, all right? But, you know, they'll tell me stories about, you know, these kids. And, you know, these kids actually, they're actually medicated before they're fed. Yeah, they're given Vicodins, you know, and they're given, you know, Prozacs and Xanaxes, as opposed to getting breakfast and lunch. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. You know, this teacher told me that, hey, you know, these teachers, they just kind of dump these kids. They just dump them off, and they're already drugged up. They're already on Prozac. They're already on these, you know, wicked-ass drugs that's getting them all screwed up in the head. So I'm saying, and if you look at all the side effects of these damn, especially these mental drugs, if you're a depressed person, oh, Jesus, Christ. If you're one of these depressed people that's been given some medication to perk you up, why don't you read the side effects, all right? And I want you to compare those side effects with those of boozing or maybe smoking a cigar or, hell, even smoking wacky tobacco or even sniffing cocaine, for Christ's sake. I mean, just compare the two. I'm not advocating, you know, anybody should go do anything. I'm just saying compare the two. You know, out here, South Texas in Macallan, we had another kid drop dead in the middle of athletic scholastic competition, in the middle of some basketball game. Another kid dropping dead. Why? Like I've said time and time again, folks, it's all this goddamn medication. It's all these energy drinks. It's all these ways that these kids are getting high now. They're getting high on what is it? Cough syrup, purple oil, salvia, synthetic tetrahydrocannabinol. I mean, what the hell are they putting in our children's biological makeup, for Christ's sake? This is why, unfortunately, we're seeing, you know, children dying in the middle of scholastic activity when they shouldn't even be having these kinds of cardiovascular problems. Jesus Christ. Anyway, 646-652-4869 is the number to call here. I want to talk to you. What do you think about what's going on here? It's a hectic world, man. A hectic world. I want to hear from you. 646-652-4869. Hey, Michael, you there?
Yeah, what's up, Ghost?
What's going on, Michael?
I just wanted to let you know,
What do you want to let me know? You're taking too long. I can hear your family in the background, for Christ's sake, all right? I mean, Jesus Christ, can't you put your laptop in the crapper or something so we can't hear your ma going, I mean, seriously, do we really need to hear that crap? Shove that up your ass, really. All right, we got Eddie Hughes on the line. What's going on, Eddie?
Hello, bro. How's it going?
I'm not bad.
What's happening? What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is, all the devastation that's happening worldwide and its effects on the global markets.
Well, I think it's all by design, brother.
You think it's so by design? How is that?
Well, it's in the protocols of Zion to enslave the whole nation into debt and then to kill off masses amount of people. It's written on the Georgia Stones down to 500 million. It all seems to be that the protocols of Zion are being fulfilled.
The protocols of Zion, huh?
The protocols of the elders of Zion, yes.
Yeah. Now, why do you think this? What evidence do you have of this?
Well, for one, it's written on the Georgia Stones that plans to depopulate the planet. It seems to me that the planet is being depopulated. It got depopulated this week by at least 10 to 30,000 Japanese people. HARP in the United Kingdom, we believe HARP, up there in Alaska, played a big part of this with the military, the American military, Navy involved. HARP was used to alter the ionosphere. The clouds seemed to have altered in Japan prior to which they shouldn't have done.
Oh, whoa, are you kidding me? You're saying that your British military or something had something to do with this?
No, the United States military. Now
you're saying that they were the ones that implemented some sort of an earthquake? Do we have that technology?
You do have HARP, HAARP, HARP.
Yeah, I understand HARP, but I don't think that it has the probability to do an earthquake of 9.9 earthquake or 9.0 earthquake. Excuse me.
Well, that's what it suggests.
Well, let's put it this way, all right? Why would they be doing it?
Well, it's all plans of the Zionist elders to depopulate the planet. The Jews, the Zionist Jews, have now overthrown the United States. They are now heavily involved in the United States government, as the British people see.
Hold on. Okay, it's funny you say that. Alex Jones was just in here. I don't know if you noticed. He was in the chat room, of course, talking garbage to me. Yeah, no. He's not, me and him are not very good. We're not very close. But the thing that he claims is not necessarily Zion. He believes it's the Bilderberg or whatever he's selling this week. It's the Bohemian Grove. It's what the hell else does he say? That's Obama. It's Obama. Give me a break. Come on, man. Look, the bottom line is we had a natural disaster. If we look at the geologic record and dig, and we see these types of anomalies happen throughout the geologic record. There's been magnetic reversals. There's been, all kinds of anomalies. Mm-hmm. Now, am I saying that that's happening now? I don't know, but it looks as though that there are definite changes going on within the atmosphere, not just the atmosphere, but the Earth itself. To sit here and say that HARP, was able to physically move Japan, 5 meters closer to the United States? It's just, it's just kind of hard for me to believe, man. And then for what? Just so that the elders of Zion can feed us matzo balls for the rest of our life? I don't get it.
Well, they've enslaved the American nation into servitude to the Israeli people. It's the Federal Reserve is owned by Israel, by the way. They've enslaved you all into this fiat currency, this fiat debt.
Now, what evidence do you have that the Federal Reserve is owned by Jewish people or whatever you claim?
It's owned by the Rothschilds, who the grandfather of Zionism.
Now, you're claiming the Rothschilds are the grandfathers of Zionism. So what's the point then?
Well, this is all comes back to the Protocols of Zion, which most Zionist Jews have said doesn't exist, even though the book is available in every language in the world. They claim doesn't exist, and this you won't hear this from Alex Jones because he talks about globalists rather than Zionists, and I don't believe it's a globalist thing. The Zionists have taken over the world, and it's all part of their agenda. They've taken over the United States.
What about the Catholics? What about the Catholics? Are they going to eliminate the Catholics?
Well, the Catholics are at war with them, and they're all trying to come together and just say, well, look, we can rule the world together. So there is a
what about Islam? Are they going to be able to take out Islam?
Well, Islam they're not at war with anyone. You'll find that Israel want to occupy Islamic territories, and they want to use American troops with false flags like 9/11 to say, look, this was Muslims, when in fact it wasn't. In fact, Israelis were stopped on the bridge with explosives in their van and murals on the van of a plane.
I can't do this anymore. I mean, give me a break. All right. I mean, Jesus Christ. And before you know it, he's going to say that, what you saw on 9/11 wasn't actually a plane. It was a hologram. Oh, yeah, it was a hologram in the sky by utilizing HARP technology to, somehow coordinate a hologramic image that looked like a plane going into the World Trade Center. But it wasn't. It was actually internally already pre-exposed to explosives. This is what we're doing. Now, look, do I agree that there's an attempt at globalization at this point in time? Absolutely. Do I agree that there are a whole bunch of different factions trying to implement and assert their idealism as the focal point or as the basis of this globalization? You're absolutely right. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying if globalization has to happen. I know there's everybody that wants to believe that their country's the best, and they believe that their culture's the best, their religion's the best, their political philosophy's the best. But inevitably, what needs to be realized, it's capitalism. All right. True capitalists need to realize that we are the Vokes of society, all right? The reason that we have such discord in the world, I know that the British Constitution wants to blame, everybody for somebody else for, misfortunes in their financial situations. I know they want to blame everybody else for, the collapse of the real estate market in the United States, the economic collapse. But, I've explained why and how this happened. And you see, what people don't really understand is that a part of being a person conducting themselves in capitalism under the guise of freedom, that means that you're free to win and free to fail. The problem is capitalists, understand this. Capitalists understand that, hey, look, you win some, you lose some. The whole point of it is to be on top of your game as a speculator, Everybody else doesn't. Look at all the factions that are trying to vouch for global order. Look at the political institutionalists like the United Nations and NATO. Oh, yeah, that's what we need, right? We need some kind of institutionalist, quasi-Immanuel Kant, League of Nations concept that is somehow going to what? Cause global peace? Ever since this international institution in the United Nations was implemented, we've seen more and more wars than we have seen. All it has done, all the United Nations has done, is given a world stage to tyrants, dictators, and, just complete rogue nations. So, yeah, I agree that there are factions attempting to take over for globalization. I agree with that. But you need to understand what they are. I understand that you're sitting over here trying, the Protocols of Zion. And, maybe because, I don't know, you had a Jewish landlord that wouldn't fix your leaky pipe or something. I don't know. Maybe you're a little upset, because, I don't know, somebody gypped you off that happened to be Jewish, on some diamond or something. I don't know why you're so upset at Jewish people. But let me explain something. it's not Jewish people that are trying to take over the world. It's religions trying to take over the world. It's political philosophies trying to take over the world. Don't you understand? It's a battle of ideas. It's a battle of cultures. I mean, these are the types of things that are taking over the world. And what humanity needs to understand is that why are we fighting with each other? Why are we going to war? Why are we going under mass hysteria? Why are we sitting here allowing autocratic governments to dictate our lives to us? And when I mean to us, I'm talking about capitalists. Now, the rest of the masses, you know, why is it first of all the capitalist problem, and why is it the government's problem to take care of the masses that has just as much freedom and as opportunity as everybody else, but don't want to seize it? I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it, man. I don't. And you see, look at it. I've got. Well, why don't you call back there, British constitutional, whatever the hell your name is? Why don't you call back? He's calling me a Nazi because I'm not, you know, caring about the Poe in America over here. That, you know, I don't care about. I mean, you see, this is what I don't get about this goddamn this alternative media movement. You know, these Alex Joneses. I know Alex Jones was here. We saw him in my chat room. You know, all these people here, they want to hyper-sensationalize all this crap without providing any solutions whatsoever. I'm providing a solution. All right, I'm providing a solution. Separate yourself from everybody else as a true capitalist. All right, and to start asserting our influence. Because let me tell you, us capitalists have influence, folks. We have influence. All right, if a government doesn't appreciate true capitalists, we should have a call out to all true capitalists to just start selling off their bonds, start selling off their investments in that country, and then we'll see, you know, how well these countries fare off trying to sit here and treat us capitalists like a bunch of idiots. You know, if some government doesn't want to sit here and say, hey, we need to be more appreciative of our capitalists in our country because they're the ones that pay the damn taxes. They're the ones that buy the treasury bonds. If we're not going to have appreciation, all right, then we should assert our own influence. And this is what I've been advocating since the beginning of this program. How do you assert your influence? Well, certainly by getting as much assets as you possibly can. You know, the only thing to be a true capitalist, folks, is to work. To work and not collect any goddamn entitlements from these damn governments. Because once they get entitlements, once they give you entitlements, they own you. All right? They own you. And I'm not going to sit here and be owned by no government. All right? I'm not going to sit here and you know, be some serf to some government bureaucratic nonsense. I am a product of the private sector. I am someone who is proud to be a part of the private sector. All right? And in my personal opinion, I think that we need to embrace the idea of global capitalism, of an idea where the true power lies in capitalists. And you want to know why? Because we're the ones that make the world go round, man. We're the ones with the motivation. We're the ones that create productivity. We're the ones that feed the rest of the masses. That's us. That's us true capitalists. We're the ones that feed the rest of the masses with our taxes, with our investments. So that's what I'm saying. So to sit here and try to criticize me because, I'm trying to embrace an idea that should be globally embraced, that will eliminate all these stupid, dumbass, old, primitive ideas that don't even need to be in the realm of human conscience anymore. Yeah, I'm talking about these dumbass ideas like culture. I mean, culture should be a novelty. You know what I'm saying? I mean, seriously, culture should be a freaking novelty. You know, there should be no reason why anybody should be living in primitive man times. There should be no reason for this, all right? There should be no reason that people are holding on to old primitive ways of life. There should be no reason for this. All right? This is only a deterrent for human progress. This is why we haven't gone anywhere as humanity. We haven't done anything because we're too worried about these ridiculous, trivial ideas. We should be colonizing planets. We should be exploring the cosmos. You know, we should be asserting humans' stance out here in the galaxy. This is what we should be doing, but instead, what are we doing? We're going to war with each other over stupid, ridiculous ideas. Stupid, old, primitive religions. You know, stupid, primitive cultures, you know. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, you know, highlight these cultures in some novelty-based festival or something. You know what I'm saying? Well, you got a little novelty-based festival or something, and you can kind of, hey, that was a cool culture. Hey, this food came from that culture. Hey, that was good. You know, you can know the history. But, I mean, enough of this idea that we just have to embrace, you know, culture as some sort of, I don't know, unbelievable bond that is worth killing humankind for. It's just a disgrace. You know, another thing is governments. You know, I mean, we need to make the governments have only a limited amount of purpose. And that government in whatever country you're in should only have the purpose of protection of private property, the rule of law, and a judicial system where a capitalist can, you know, basically arbitrate any kind of bad business dealings. And if a government can supply that, well, then, you know, that's a successful government. But if they start adding taxation, if they start implementing totalitarian idealism, well, then why are true capitalists going to stay there? This is what I'm saying. The power lies with us. And everybody out there needs to realize that. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. 514, you're on the air.
Yeah, going back to your last caller, there's two problems with him. One, he's probably got Kate Middleton's clit stuck somewhere in between the many gaps he has in his teeth. And second of all, that 9.0 earthquake was probably caused by the tea bag that he received from Prince William. He's a fucking chump. He sucks. All Europeans suck. You know, go ahead, take a tea bag from Prince William while Kate Middleton's clit is stuck in between the mini gaps.
Yeah, you know, haven't you noticed that? Man. Oh man, he hung up. But I agree. You know, this guy's sitting here saying, "Oh yes, you know, it's a Zionist conspiracy. You know, it's a Zionist conspiracy," and yet none of these English bastards like kind of point to their stupid monarch that they still have in power, by the way. You know, they still are worshiping a monarch, and I hate when these stupid tea-drinking English bastards say, oh, you know, she's just, you know, a figurehead. She no longer rules over anything. Are you kidding me? I mean, you know, why are you supporting her and the Queen Mum? I remember when the Queen Mum was still around, this bimbo was he spending $150 million of the English people's money because, it's the Queen Mum. I mean, no kidding, man. Why don't you stop worshiping a goddamn feudalistic, old, prehistoric monarch, and then maybe I'll give you some respect, all right? I mean, seriously, give me a break. I mean, these damn English people, man. I mean, monarchs are primitive idealists. All right? I mean, they're primitive ideals. What we need to realize is we need to throw these types of ideas into the realm or into the halls of antiquity. That's what we need to do. Anyway, Constantine, you're on the air.
Well, yes, of course, some from England. Oh, excuse me, I'm not. I'm from Texas. What's up, man?
Say, what the hell? I was just getting a little
hey, your Cockney accent's pretty good, actually, man. That's not half bad.
What's going on, man?
You know, here's the reality I see of it. You know, I mean, I studied political science when I was in college. You know, about conspiracy theories in general. Everybody, to some degree, wants their group to rule the world. It's just human nature. You know, the thing is just, you know, it's like whether you're talking about religion or whether country, anytime anybody fights a war, they always believe that God, whichever their perception of God is on their side. They always want to be the one that's in power. People always want to serve their interests. Do some Jews want to rule the world? Sure. Do some Islamics want to rule the world? Sure. I mean, do some people here in Texas want to be its own republic again and rule ourselves? Well, definitely there are those people.
Yeah, there's a big contingent of those folks out here. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, there's even a show here on Blog Talk Radio. Here's the reality of things. Anybody who have a problem with the fact that they're conspiracy theorists, everybody wants to rule the world, like that old song by Mr. Everybody wants to rule the world, No,
actually, that was Tears for Fears.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was Tears for Fears. You're right. But the point is it's like, show me a group that is involved in politics or big business or anything that doesn't try to get some kind of monopoly, and I'll show you somebody that's not going to be in business very long.
I mean, yeah, that's the whole purpose of getting into business is to dominate the market. Yeah.
Yeah, it is like my Cherokee great grandfather used to say. It's just the way of things. This is the way life is, and the fact that it upsets you that you've come to the reality that the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Tea Party, the Socialist Party, the Libertarian Party, all of them ultimately want their side to win and run things. That's
Absolutely.
Reality. Why does it upset human nature?
And what's really unfortunate though is that even though people want to rule the world, they just don't have an idea to rule the world based on equal opportunity for all. Mostly it's bureaucrats or religious powers or cultural powers or ideologues that actually want to just take over countries or take over geopolitical areas and implement some agenda that really has nothing to do with the progress of humanity. Now, I know that I get a lot of crap because I talk a lot of, ill-filled words towards certain people that are supposed to be poor in this country. And they criticize me because they think that I'm inhumane. But on the contrary, I think I'm the biggest humanist on the Internet because I don't want the complete annihilation of the human race. I don't want the extinction of the human race. I think that our potential has been undercut because of our complacency under certain systems that make us believe that just because you exist, just because you were born, and you make no contribution to this reality, none whatsoever, not going out and kicking some wisdom to some kids, not going out and actually working and being product. I mean, nothing. I just don't agree that we need to sit here and support people, and all it has done is stagnated human progress. We should be in other planets right now, man. We should be colonizing the moon. We should be, interacting with any potential life that's in the galaxy or in the world. We've just been told by NASA, what is it, there's 50 million planets or something out there in the galaxy?
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. So, I mean, why
if you've ever been to Israel, if you've ever been to Israel and you've ever been to that country, the land there isn't really worth fighting for. People, hello. I mean, I understand the religious significance, but I mean, there's a lot of more fertile, a lot better lands, lots of different places over in the world, And and just as an example, but the thing is everybody sits there and tries to say, it's this, but our group isn't doing it. It's like everybody does it. And, the problem with socialism, for example, it's not in theory that it's bad. Of course, obviously, it doesn't give you a lot of freedoms, but the thing is socialism doesn't work because it takes in, it assumes that people aren't self-interested and won't be corrupt. There needs to be regulations along with freedoms because people that are smart abuse the rest of us.
It's obvious just from America here that, we can't even take the freedoms that we have and be responsible politically, socially, and economically. This is why America's taken a step back. This is why I do this broadcast, because if there's enough capitalists out here to keep this economy afloat, even though these masses out here want to continue to mooch off the government teat, there'll still be enough capital for capitalists to prosper out here. The problem is that particular segment of America that continues to mooch off of our tax system is starting to eat in to the basic government services of protection of property, of the implementation of rule of law, and it's breaking the budgets of states, of municipalities, and even our federal government. And what's really unfortunate is that no one sees this, and this is the problem, not just here but everywhere, all over the world. Not to mention potential natural disasters or anything else that happens to transpire. And I think that what we need to understand is we need to just forget about the idea of countries, of the idea that we have to just, bow down to some, one country or two countries or whatever the case might be. I think that as capitalists, we need to realize that our opportunity is global. And if any country doesn't make appropriate footing for capitalist investment, for capitalist prosperity, then all true capitalists shouldn't invest in that country. They should sell off their treasury bonds. They should sell off all their stocks. They should pull back their investments. Then we'll see if that government tries to, sit here and overregulate and overtaxate and overstep their bounds when it comes to stepping on private enterprise. That's why I tell all capitalists that listen to me that, look, if the government, at this point in time, the American government is not doing what is in the favor of true capitalists. Right now, we're seeing, government do what's in the favor of those that depend on them for sustenance. And this is, throwing a big, huge imbalance in our economic system. It's jeopardizing the whole integrity of our currency. And I think that these are the problems that need to be addressed. And if they're not addressed, then capitalists in this country need to start planning for the next 2 years. If none of this stuff's, we don't get fiscally responsible, we don't start cutting, we don't start, restructuring the tax code so that we can make it an advantage or some kind of incentive to invest or to hire people in America. We need, tax breaks for any company or any corporation that wants to invest in research and development. I mean, these are the types of things that we need to do. But what's really unfortunate is that, we're here and, we have to continue to support these entitlement systems, Social Security, Medicaid, the government cheese, food card, housing voucher programs, assisted electrical assistance program. I mean, there are so many federal programs, state programs, municipal programs, nonprofit programs, church programs, for all these people to take advantage of, and they do. And this is the America that we're now living in. These are the people with influence, because they're the ones that have the time to stand in these 8-hour lines now. Have you noticed if you go out and vote, you have to stand in line for about 8 hours. These are the only people that have the time to do it because they're at home. They're losers. They're not out there going out and working. They're not out there making capital. This is why this bureaucracy that's in power today in Washington is so ridiculous and knows that the American public doesn't care, because they don't care, because the majority of people that are out there and, actually conducting themselves politically are not the ones funding this whole operation. And it's really sad, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's one thing about the political system. Wise up. Go to early voting. There isn't any place in America, no kind of race at all, that doesn't allow you to vote early. Waiting till the last day to go and vote, I'm...
Man, I'm sorry, Constantine. I got to cut you off there. Get him off! Get him off! I mean, no offense, man, but I just don't believe in this political system anymore. All right? I mean, I just don't believe in it anymore. You know what I believe in? I believe that when the true capitalists finally raise up, come on and raise up. When the true capitalists finally raise up and assert their power, and we start forcing these politicians to reform themselves, and we start forcing these politicians to say, hey, wait a minute, we need to start reforming the voter system. Maybe certain people shouldn't be allowed to vote. Now, what should be the litmus test for a voter? And I find it very simple for a litmus test for a voter, okay? Just show the person conducting the voting, wherever the hell you go and vote, show them a tax bill, a W-2 form, all right? Show them that you paid taxes and that you're working, and there you go. You can go vote. How hard is that? I guarantee you the individuals that actually pay taxes, if they were the exclusive party that voted in this country, this country would be a hell of a lot different than it is today. And I don't care what you do for a living, folks. I mean, I know there's a lot of leftists that'll sit here and say, oh, he's being elitist. He just wants people that are rich to vote. No, that's not true. No. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care if you clean enema bags for a living. I don't care if you clean the leftover secretions at an adult theater at the end of the night. As long as you're getting paid and as long as you're paying taxes, you should have more of an authority than these assholes that are not contributing anything, except turning perfectly good food into crap. You know? Seriously. I mean, how in the hell, or why, let's put this, why in the hell should anybody take care of somebody that's not contributing anything to the world? Anything. Nothing. The only thing they're contributing is turning perfectly good food into shit. You know, they're shit funnels. That's what they are. That's their contribution. You know, going out, you know, and turning perfectly good food into shit, and that's their contribution. And you know who's supplying them that food? We are. The taxpayer. Who's supplying them the money? We are. You know, who's supplying them money so they can go to the welfare office and talk on their iPhone? We are. Huh? I mean, it's disgusting, man. I'm not joking. I'm not kidding. I know there's people that are taking offense to that. They're like, oh, man. I mean, I can't believe that you can sit here and say that, Ghost. I can say it, and I'll go to sleep at night comfortably. Because it'll be a great day, a great goddamn day in American history when the voters of America are no longer the average everyday schmuck that is, you know, basically contributing to the downfall of our country. These people that just want to sit on their fat asses and collect unemployment for 99 weeks because they know they can get away with it, you know? You know, I'm talking about these ass clowns that are out here, you know, collecting disability for things like fibromyalgia and bipolar disorder and depression and all this other crap. You know, I'm sick and tired of it. I think that everybody in not only this country, but everybody in the world should have some kind of a contribution, all right? Some kind of a contribution to this world, for Christ's sake. And you see, the people that are raising up, haven't you noticed, the people that are raising up throughout the international community are the people that just want to sit on their fat asses and do nothing. You know? They want to do nothing. They just want, they want a paper pusher job. They want annual increases every year. They want, job security that's never going to happen. I keep telling these kids that are listening to me out here, you're not going to have job security. You're not. All right? I mean, you're not going to be with these cush-ass jobs for 30 years. You're not going to have them, man. It sucks, but that's the way it is. So why should these public unions have more leverage than you when you're the one paying their salary? I mean, these are the kind of questions you need to ask. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. Anyway, 646-652-4869 is the number to call here. We were talking about a lot of different subject matters. What I want to talk about now is about a young man that went into an airport, recently, and decided to write down an abbreviated copy of the Fourth Amendment and put it on his chest. Yeah, that's right. He actually put the Fourth Amendment on his chest. And when he got to the airport, when they were going to frisk him and, do the groin check and, x-ray him or whatever, he started stripping down, into his undies, basically with this Fourth Amendment thing written on his chest, and they arrested him for it, believe it or not. Yeah, they arrested it for him, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? They arrested him because he was cooperating with whatever in the hell the NSA is demanding from travelers nowadays. Although, if you travel private Learjet, which isn't very expensive, man. I mean, it's like $3,000 to rent out a private Lear. All right, you don't even have to go through the lines, man. You can just go right onto the tarmac and go right from your car into your damn plane, and boom, you're out of there, man. It's not that expensive, man. Seriously, y'all should look into it, man. And let's say, okay, I don't have $3,000, but you got $1,000, or you got $1,500. Well, why don't you, you look for somebody else who has $1,500 that needs to go to the same place and get a Learjet, You don't even have to stand in line. You don't even have to go through anything, man. Anyway, 646-652-4869 is the number to call here. Like I said, this young man got arrested. You know how these damn bureaucrats are. When you try to show them up, when you try to make them look lower than a leprechaun's nutsack, they're going to try to assert their vulgar display of power upon you, and they're going to try to do whatever it takes to make you look like a goddamn fool, So anyway, he got arrested, and now he's suing. He is suing, for Christ's sake. All right? He is suing because he feels that, his rights were infringed upon because, he basically did what the NSA asked of him. You know how the NSA is always, here, take your shoes off, take this, and, take that, and, here, take your belt off, and take... And that's what this kid did. He took off everything, he stripped down to his drawers, and he decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and, show off my abbreviated Fourth Amendment, on my chest, and they took him to jail for it, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Oh, Jesus Christ. And you know what's really sad, folks, is that our children, our kids have been so dumbed down by our education system, they can't read the writing on the wall. They can't read the writing on the wall, and instead they'll listen to some idiot like that Limey that just called up saying, oh, yes, it's the elders of Zion. It's the elders of Zion that are causing all the trouble in the world today. Oh, yes. Oh, that's what I'm doing. Give me a break, all right? The bottom line is, folks, is that you have to choose a side, all right? And if you want to choose the side of the losers, if you want to be a part of these idiots waiting in line for loaves of bread, if you want to be one of these morons that are out here not knowing what to do in a tragic situation, in a financial precarious situation, in a social precarious situation, well, then go and be whatever the hell you want to be. Because this program right here, this program that I conduct Monday through Friday, all right, 5 days a week, is for the true capitalist. All right? It's for the true capitalists out there that are listening in. All right? That are on the side of capitalism, that are on the side of prosperity, that are on the side of getting in what you put in. Not sitting here and giving out, handouts to a bunch of non-contributors of this system, of this world. We don't need to feed people that aren't making any kind of a contribution whatsoever. I'm sorry. Like I said, my ass bleeds for the po in America, all right? I mean, that's one of my favorite quotes, all right? My ass bleeds for the po in America. And like I said, you assholes, all right? All you assholes that are claiming that y'all are po out here, all right? I want every one of you that are listening in that think I'm a bad man for saying this. Go to any black ghetto. Go to any Mexican barrio. Go to any white trailer park. All right? And make sure you lock up tight while you're driving through. Don't get down. All right? Don't get down. Lock up tight and cruise by these neighborhoods and count how many fat, jelly-ass bastards with cellulite dripping over their asses and over their guts and waddling. They got that waddling walk. Makes you want to get down with a trumpet and go bam, 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 bam. And these people are supposed to be po in America. These are supposed to be po people in America. Meanwhile, our youth, all right? Meanwhile, our youth is being dumbed down. Our youth is being forced to go into college education arenas, putting themselves in debt $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 before they even get into the employment sector. And once they get in the employment sector, folks, are there any jobs waiting for them worth of crap? Hell no. Do they have the same kind of job security that Mammy and Daddy had? Hell no. Are they going to have Social Security? Are they going to have Medicaid like Mommy and Daddy had? Absolutely not. They're going to have to fend for themselves. And what's really sad is that nobody's caring. Nobody cares. The education system doesn't care because they want to continue to get paid, and they don't care if it's on the backs of the youth. The college education system doesn't care because they'll still ride the backs of the youth. The government doesn't care. The baby boomers doesn't care. Nobody cares. This is why I do this broadcast, folks. This is why I'm telling you, folks. You need to realize, I'm talking about all the youth out there. You got to realize that this is America now, and you got to choose a side. You got to become a real capitalist, a true capitalist, because if you don't, you're going to be eaten by this society. You're going to be eaten by America, and I'm not joking, because this is America. This is America. On my chest, and they took him to jail for it, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Oh, Jesus Christ. And you know what's really sad, folks, is that our children, our kids have been so dumbed down by our education system, they can't read the writing on the wall. They can't read the writing on the wall, and instead, they'll listen to some idiot like that lying. We're from America! on my chest, and they took him to jail for it, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Oh, Jesus Christ. And you know what's really sad, folks, is that our children, our kids have been so dumbed down by our education system, they can't read the writing on the wall. They can't read the writing on the wall. And instead, they'll listen to some idiot like that Limey that just... From America!
You're listening to Ghost
on True Capitalist Radio.
True Capitalist Radio.
Yeah, we're back. That was a little bit of a Marilyn Manson there with We're From America, and the only reason I put that on is for you all to critically analyze that song, because it's saying something. It's saying that, hey, we're eating our young out here, folks, and this is why I continue to do this broadcast, because I want the young to realize that, hey, there's no need to sit down and lay down and allow things to happen the way they're going to happen. I mean, what you need to realize is you can be a capitalist, you can be a true capitalist, and affect the international, global system of things just by participating in the capitalist global market. It's very simple, very easy, all right? And those of you that don't want to participate in it, don't bitch at us, because we're making cash, baby. Yeah. Anyway, let me go ahead and open up another beer here, folks. If anybody out there drinking libations, cheers to everybody out there. There we go. Anyway, folks, 646-652-4869. Before we went off there and took that break and talked about how we're eating our young out here in America, we were talking about how a young man went into the area where you're supposed to have your Johnson checked in the airport and, get screened and by that x-ray machine and all that other crap. He decided to go in and, physically write, I think it was with pen or marker, the First Amendment on his chest. And when they asked him to go ahead and start stripping, this guy basically stripped down to his drawers and showed off the Fourth Amendment, which was written on his chest, of course, for the folks that don't know what the Fourth Amendment is, with rights for search and seizures and due process of law. But anyway, they arrested him for it, and he's suing I don't know who he's suing, but he's suing somebody because, he was falsely arrested or whatever the case might be. Anyway, I want to hear from you. 646-652-4869. That was the last thing we were talking about. Another thing I want to talk about, folks, is this. It's kind of off topic, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek here, but I want to talk a little bit about this girl that actually posted a party on Facebook in Australia. Believe it or not, she actually posted a party. She's like, I'm going to have a party out here in Australia. I'm going to go have a kangaroos out here. We're going to go out and we have a party. And, she actually posted this on Facebook, and, she said, hey, I just want to have a party, and I just want my friends to come over, and I just want a couple of people from Facebook. That's all. I don't want to take it out of the ordinary. Well, lo and behold, 200,000 people decided that, made, themselves known that they were going to be going to this party. I mean, can you believe that? This party went viral. It was supposed to be just some, a couple of kids getting together. 200,000 people said that they were going to show up at this party, so she has to cancel this party. She had to make it widely known to the 200,000 people that were coming to her house party that she wasn't going to have it, I mean, and this just goes to show you how, Facebook is really affecting our goddamn world here. When you can just put a party on Facebook and have 200,000 assholes say, yeah, I'll be there, man. Is there going to be beer? Huh? Is there going to be beer, or is there going to be any chips and dip? I mean, give me a break, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? But, this just goes to show you, This just goes to show you what happens here. Let me take a chug of this beer. Anyway, 646-652-4869. For all the folks that are tuning in, the reason that we're on an hour later than usual is because we had technical difficulties at Blog Talk Radio, but those have been remedied, so we're going to continue having a 3-hour show. Okay, folks? We got 36 minutes left of the broadcast. We got a lot of people listening in. If you can right now, folks, tell everybody you know, go on your social networking sites, go on your Twitter accounts, and put blogtalkradio.com/ghost and spread it around like wildfire. All right, spread it around to everybody you know, for Christ's sake. All right? I mean, if this bimbo, well, I shouldn't call her a bimbo, she's a little teenage girl, but this little girl in Australia, if she could post a party on Facebook and get 200,000 people to confirm they're going there, I mean, I think that people should be able to find the True Capitalist radio broadcast a little bit faster than, what's going on here. So that's why I'm saying spread it around like wildfire, for Christ's sake. All right? Anyway, let me take a chug here. Oh, that's some good stuff right there, boy. Real good stuff right there, baby. Anyway, I want to hear from you, all right? 646-652-4869 is the number to call here. 404, you're on the air.
Yeah, my name's Herbie, and I think British people are stupid. Even though I'm retarded, I think British people suck. British people can suck my dick.
Well, I'm sure that sentiment is widely accepted also there, pal. 740, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Ghost? It's Tony in Ohio, man. Long time no hear.
Hey, it's Tony in Ohio, bro. What's going on, man? Long time no hear is right. What you been up to, man?
Nothing. I was going to give you kudos for playing a little Brian Warner, a.k.a. Marilyn Manson, because he's from Ohio.
Yeah, well, it's definitely in correlation with what's going on in America to the youth today.
He's always got a lot of strange messages in his music, and some of them are rather, strange to the point where you don't want to listen to it, and some of it is kind of like, like that song. I think that song kind of poignant as well.
As you can see, I know we haven't talked in a while, man. I mean, I'm no longer a conservative, man. The conservative movement is pretty much moot at this point in time. It's just about capitalism. It's just about making money. It's just about the fundamentals of expanding that globalized capitalist system throughout the international community, so that true capitalists are individuals that understand how to allocate assets and move their capital, if you will, can be able to prosper no matter what the government conditions are in a given geopolitical location.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I mean, I liked you when you were a conservative, and it's fine that you're not, because you're the same guy, so it really doesn't make a difference. The message is the same, if you ask me. You know what I mean? I was never really a conservative myself. You know that. I was on the right wing, but I was, I'm an individualist, so my economics, I guess, are a bit less government involvement than what this current system has.
Yeah, I hear you. Same here. All I'm trying to do is stack as much capital as I possibly can, and be able to maneuver myself around all the socialist investments that our government is conducting itself in, and while at the same time paying it forward and trying to help people understand the complexity of the problems that we have in today's America. And I think that it's a shame that here we have a municipal and state debt. The deficit for states and municipalities on a United States scale is $3.2 trillion. And yet you've got these bureaucrats that actually don't want to, hold back on some of these pensions or renegotiate, or they don't want to be treated like regular private sector employees. And now they are trying to, force the people that are actually paying the taxes, they're trying to force us to believe that they are somehow more patriotic and deserve these inflated budgets with limited responsibility. And in my personal opinion, I think that's not fair. And I think that true capitalists, the individuals that supply this government the money to conduct business and to pay these bureaucrats, we should be standing up and taking offense to this vulgar display of arrogance and disregard for actual fiscal responsibility by the public sector workers, by disregarding state debt, municipal debt, for the sake of their own inflated budgets. And I just think that this has an ugly connotation to it. I know I predicted this a long time ago, but it's getting kind of ugly now that it's starting to become class warfare.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't disagree with you because the collective bargaining concerning wages in the public sector is basically extorting the extortionist. I mean, the government already sticks a point of a gun, in your face, and at the point of a gun extorts your money, taxes, and then therefore the next guy, the union's going to come along and extort the extortioner. That's just going to get passed along to us. You know what I mean? The taxpayers. So it's just a bad idea to extort the extortionist. It's always going to inflate the prices. And then I was doing some reading not too long ago because I was trying to figure out this little enigma in my mind of what causes wages to rise. And what I figured out was that it's basically task maximization and therefore extra productivity and therefore higher profits, and then the wages rise accordingly. And people would argue, well, union membership's got something to do with that, but you can really look at it statistically, and there's a bunch of places online that have really great, statistics and graphs, and it shows you that union membership is not at all corollary, let alone causal, to wages rising in the United States. In really any country. The fact is that it rises when the productivity rises. The biggest points of wage rising are following big innovations in technology or big influxes of cheap immigrant labor, whether they be illegal or legal. Big innovations in things like outsourcing when they're not done with government incentives to do it, when it's done on a free market scale. All those things add to the productivity and the overall tasks available to the population, and that's what makes wages rise, not memberships in unions. They're not even close to corollary or causal. The idea that they are is a myth that is perpetuated by people that see a collective bargaining go down, and look, we got $24 an hour instead of $16 an hour. But what you've done is risen unemployment, because if that guy had $48 that hour to pay somebody, he could have hired 3 people at $16 an hour, not 2 people at $24 an hour. So you've actually increased unemployment in that sector, in that particular place, by about 33%. It's just a bad idea. It doesn't actually raise the standard of living. And another thing, and I'm sorry to go on, but
no, go ahead.
The Ed Show. I don't know if you ever catch that show on MSNBC. Ed Schultz, and
hell no.
I know. I want to gag when I say his name, right? And he shows this graph, and it's how the income of, notice the word income, of Americans is declined over the past X amount of years, and how we're worse off, and it's the war on the middle class, that little special little catchphrase. There's no such thing as the war on the middle class. If you don't just call it income and you call it real wages, which includes benefits, we are 6 times better off, accounting for inflation, than our great-grandparents were. So the idea that there's this war on the middle class, look, it spurts and stops. You know how the markets work. It goes up and down, but the overall progression is upward. So this idea that there's a war on the middle class because we're in the middle of a recession is like saying that the middle class was not better off pre-Depression, compared to the Depression, and then post-Depression as compared to pre-Depression. I mean, after there was a good standard of living, then there was the Depression. Afterward, there was an elevated standard of living, not back to the evenness of before, but accelerated above. And it's always the way it is. It spurts and stops, and that's how economies work. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. That's how economies work. I mean, it's only dictated by the amount of innovation, about the amount of demand. Markets are basically, if they are allowed to be organic amongst their private investments as opposed to regulated or overtaxated or forced to, pay certain wage labors, then we're going to see, just like you just mentioned, this discrepancy in the standard of living. That's why I keep telling people that here we are, we're living in 2011, and besides a couple of smartphones, tablets, maybe some plasma screens, I still think it looks a lot like 1995 to me. And I thought 1995 was supposed to be the precursor to us having, houses when you come inside, has your food already made for you and crap like that. I mean, we can't even get, any of these technologies that were ideas in the 50s. I don't know if you remember or not remember, but if you've read about the 50s futuristic movement at the time when, a lot of these manufacturers, a lot of science fiction writers, a lot of people were concepting these new futuristic appliances, these new ways of living. That's why the Jetsons came out.
I didn't know that.
And to be completely honest with you, we haven't. I don't see us progressing at all. I think the standard of living really sucks in America. And I'm in Austin, Texas right now. I live in one of the better cities in this state, probably the best per capita as far as personal income is concerned. And to be honest with you, I don't feel that sophisto out here. I mean, I figured that at this point in time, 2011, we would have technologies that would, have us having smell-o-vision and, virtual reality internets at this point in time, and these types of things. And we're still working with little primitive technology. And what you're saying has a lot of validity to why we're in this situation. We're not allowing the markets to dictate where the level of progress is going to head to. We're not allowing the consumer to base its own mind on where it's going to consume. And we have government influences on all assets of that, or all aspects of that, excuse me. Go ahead.
And here's a great example of that, since I'm looking at the tags for your show. You got Japan nuclear disaster. Okay. The nuclear thing going on in Japan is a perfect prime example of where the government screwed everybody by making decisions for us instead of letting the market do it. Now, nuclear power is very clean. I'm not going to say it's not, and I'm not going to say that it's not usable in some places. But for the most part, if you look around the world, and especially in the United States, the only reason we have nuclear power plants is because the government either caps liability, gives subsidy, or gives a special tax break to these people.
That's exactly right.
We basically encourage this, through this interference. And what happens? Oh, lo and behold, when they showed a map on TV the other day of all the nuclear power plants in the United States, I have 2 of them here in my state, they showed a bunch of them in California all along the fault line. I'm like, oh, yeah, that was good engineering on the government's behalf right there. But when you cap liability...
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you cap liability, that's what happens. And same thing happened with BP. That's why they drilled so far out. They capped liability.
You're exactly right. I mean, not to mention that the regulations that these certain bureaucracies try to implement as the standard to these nuclear power plants, and I didn't want to really mention this because, once again, we're still early at these stages with the disaster in Japan. I mean, they suffer a natural disaster with an earthquake, a tsunami, and now you've got a nuclear fallout situation happening out there. And in my personal opinion, I think that the IAEA and maybe the Japanese government should bear at least some responsibility, because if you take a look at how these things were designed, a lot of these power plants were built along top of each other, which is not something that is a common thing to do. Not to mention that these standards that were given to these particular nuclear power plants were based upon the IAEA standard, which is the International Atomic Energy Consortium that's supposed to be the overseer of not just nuclear technology but nuclear weapons. I mean, when we suspect anybody of any kind of nuclear activity, we send in the IAEA. Well, now, scientists are coming out. Some idiot, or I shouldn't say idiot, but some guy that was, was the guy who cleaned up the Chernobyl accident, was saying that the IAEA actually has a lot to blame for the situation that's happening in Japan. That, the IAEA doesn't really know what the hell they're doing. And none of these regulators do. They depend on the expertise of the private sector, and the private sector is basing their particular productivity on the regulations by the damn public sector. So you got this hodgepodge of different, influences and responsibilities, and I mean, just on and on. And if you want my personal opinion, I think this has a big, consequence for the situation, this meltdown that's happening in Japan. I mean, that's just my opinion.
And And regulations are protectionism, too. We have to face up to the fact that because lobbying is how we get things done in Washington in reality instead of the way it should be, the fact is that when these people go in and lobby, they're not just lobbying defensively. They're lobbying offensively also. I mean, it starts off defensively innocently enough. Bill Gates described how that happened for him, how they went after him as a monopoly, and then after that he started defensively lobbying. Next thing you know, it's like, well, maybe I could get this rule made for me and that rule made for me. And it's just it's protectionism. It's a way to prop up monopolies that would not exist in the free market without this kind of government, gun in hand favoritism, So all these regulations that like you describe, or like I saw a video the other day, it was really great. Rand Paul going on and on about low flow toilets to a regulator and light bulbs, and I thought it was hilarious because it's like somebody needs to tell these people, what gives you the right to tell me what I want to buy? I know what I want to buy, and you're keeping me from buying it. Get out of the way.
And not to mention also, Tony, that nuclear power plants. Let's say there's another 3 Mile Island here in the United States. Because they fall under a certain government standard, they are absolved of any kind of legal responsibility if there happens to be a mistake. You see, regulation doesn't mean jack. So, let's say you live by a nuclear power plant, and if the nuclear power plant met up to the government standards, and, the government's supposed to be checking these things and rechecking these things, then they're absolved of any kind of litigious responsibility. So what are you used to do? You got to go sue the government, and good luck trying to get money from that bureaucracy. So you're absolutely right. Let's say if it was in the private sector, let's say a nuclear meltdown happened, and it wasn't the cause of a natural disaster. Now we also have to remember that a natural disaster did happen, and that was a big effect on what happened there at that nuclear plant. But at the same time, there were nuclear plants on top of each other. This specific one that's causing the nuclear fallout actually had 5 or 6 nuclear plants in this one area, and because one of them, bursted into flames and popped off, all of them are starting to heat up and do the same thing. So this is something that was not, I don't know if it was thought out or if they thought about this sort of thing, but in my personal opinion, I think that they should have re-looked into that.
Well, they're going to turn their people into popcorn.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, not only that. I mean, let's say that the Japanese firm that owns this particular nuclear power plant went by not only IAEA standards but Japanese regulation standards. Then the Japanese people, as it relates to the nuclear fallout, can't get any kind of restitution. And if this were all private enterprise based, well, everybody who's affected by anybody who got hurt or if they got affected by a private enterprise can legally go to court and sue these people. You can't do that when they've got regulations, and because this company pays this bureaucracy a permit fee or whatever they call it so that some bureaucrat can come in and inspect them and they meet up to the quote-unquote government standards, you can't sue that company, man. And that's what these dumbasses don't understand out here that want to push us into this socialist idea. There is nowhere for recourse when it comes to any kind of mistake that governments do or government regulation does. There is no recourse for it, man.
No, there's not. There's nothing. I mean, without market triggers, what are you gonna do? Like, I have this is a little off topic, but it's just kind of the same sort of meta topic. When people talk about this is not as bad as the Great Depression or whatever, right? Because the people had bread lines and all that. That's usually the argument I hear from people. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying, but what you're saying basically is because Obama didn't burn 10,000 acres of food and kill 6 million farm animals to prop up the price of food, that's why, because that's why we had bread lines. They didn't exist just out of nowhere. It was because FDR decided it was a good idea to prop up food prices by burning food or subsidizing people more directly, subsidizing people not to grow it, and having 6 million animals slaughtered, farm animals, that were going to be put onto the meat market. And this caused an inflation in price in food, and what does that always do? Cause shortages. You know what I mean? So it's
and it's typical leftist. It's a typical leftist method to organize the people around the state, man. I mean, Vladimir Lenin did it during his implementation of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Stalin did it. Mao Zedong did it with the Great Leap Forward. I mean, it's a classical tactic to make a shortage on food and commodities so that the people can, be that much more dependent on the government. It's really disgusting, man.
And the state has no problem directing hunger as a weapon either. That's the problem with all collectivism. It's one famine away from failure.
Well, not necessarily failure. You see, that's the thing. Communists, because of their philosophical perception of viewing reality from this warped dialectic perception of dialectic materialism, they don't view this type of potential famine, or they don't view actually artificial famine as a failure. They actually view that as a more efficient way of getting those that can't deal with the collective idealism in their country and be efficient within that collective structure to get them out of here by starving them to death. I mean, that's a plain fact. I mean, that's what happened when Lenin took over the power of Russia.
Right. Same thing with Pol Pot.
Yeah, and now Pol Pot, absolutely. This is what is the basis of this communist secularist idealism. This is why it's so easy for these secularist collective idealists to think of human life as no big deal. I mean, I'll quote Stalin. Stalin said that the death of one is a tragedy. The death of millions is just a statistic. When Mao Zedong was threatened by Truman, that he better, clean up his act because, I mean, this was after World War II, of course, that, we were going to throw the damn atomic bomb at his ass. Mao Zedong didn't care. Mao Zedong said, go ahead and throw it. He didn't care. He even told Khrushchev, which was the head of the Soviet state at that time, that he could lose about, 10 or 15 million. It's no big deal to him. And the reason is because this is how these dialectic materialists under the secular doctrine of communists think. And this is why it's so easy for them, even though they sell this political romantic utopia of the perfect system. I mean, if you look at every application of communism, socialism, it's the same garbage, and people still end up suffering at an even more rapid and extreme case than they do with capitalist favored systems. And it's a fact, and anybody that wants to disagree with that doesn't know their ass from their elbow.
I mean, we are going to win in the long run. I mean, free market capitalism, for whatever the criticisms are of it, is going to win in the long run because it's unstoppable. We didn't know about supply and demand when we had feudalism, and that's why everything went haywire all the time with upheavals and famines and so on and so forth, extra brutality against the people from the states and so on and so forth. And then you moved into mercantilism, the first more vulgar form of capitalism that we figured out because we kind of figured out the classical supply and demand, but people kind of clung to the Hamiltonian ideas as opposed to really just grabbing on to the Adam Smith ideas in totality. And even where Adam Smith lacked, further guys came along and added to it, Ricardo, Bastiat. And as we moved in, we started realizing free markets is the way to go. And the more that we use free market ideology to dictate price triggers, to figure out why there's shortages, to figure out, just everything we want to know about the general economic systems anywhere, it's looked at from a free market point of view, and then that's when it's most accurate. It's never going to be perfect. It's forecasting. You know what I mean? That's what making money is. You're investing. But it's always something that's, I think, going to win in the end because ever since feudalism, we've been resisting it, even without knowing it. Resisting the supply and demand, resisting price. That we don't like the varying prices. Oh, the price of food is too low. Oh, the price of food is too high. The market figures it out, and you can't fight it. There's just no fighting it, so it wins in the end anyway. You might as well just get on the train, and it's like being a surfer. What are you going to do? You're gonna ride the wave, or you're going to try to fight it? You got to ride the wave.
Absolutely, and you have to ride the wave. And it's only good for. It's just good for society. It's good for the world. It's good for mankind. It's good for human productivity, human progress. For us to embrace the free market system, man. We can no longer be, with this idealism that we have to look towards government institutions, religious institutions, whatever institution for our way of life, our way of sustenance. I mean, this is a great system. It brought in modernity. I mean, anybody who tries to deny that also is does a damn fool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're
anyway,
right.
Tony, I got a little bit. No, I'm just going to say I got a little bit left here, 12 minutes left. Do you have a blog or something you want to plug or anything, man?
Nah, man, I just wanted to call in and talk to you real quick, and I appreciate you taking my call.
No problem. Hey, man, send me an email, man, ghostpolitics@yahoo.com, man.
All right, brother.
All right, you take it easy, man. It's good to hear from you again, bro.
You too, man. It was good to hear your show. I see you're on a different time. I'll have to check you out more often.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. usually. We just were an hour late today because of this damn BTR technical problem, so you know how that goes.
Yeah, I know how it is. All right, man, I'll check you out.
All right, man, you take it easy, Tony. Thanks for calling in, man.
All right, later.
That was Tony in Ohio, an avid listener of the program. I mean, he's been listening back to in the true conservative radio days. I mean, back in the day. But anyway, we've got 11 minutes left in the program. I'm going to take another call here. Obviously, Eddie Hughes wants to talk. He's been flapping his fat tea-drinking fingers on the keyboard, talking all this garbage that I'm some kind of a Nazi. Well, now's your chance there, Eddie. What's the problem?
Hello, sir. How you doing? You're very offensive, I noticed, towards the British. I can only assume that you're very anti-Semitic, anti-government, and anti-pretty much everything else.
Anti-Semitic? What are you talking about? You're just talking about Zionist movements taking over the world, and I'm anti-Semitic?
Well, yeah, what you're doing is pulling me down, and because I'm British, I took on board your rants, your inflammatory, talk, trying to take off Londoners. I'm not even London, I'm Welsh. But it was noted.
You're still a part of the Queen's crown, so, get over it.
No, I'm not part of the Queen's crown. In fact, we've just had the British census. I didn't even fill it. If you check my YouTube channel, you will see that I show people. I've had 2,500 hits on what to do with the census run by Lockheed Martin, an American scum organization that tries
wait a minute.
to
Lockheed Martin is not an American company. It's a British company. But go ahead.
Well, they're the second biggest arms dealer in America. Anyway, let's not go into that. But I shredded.
But wait a minute. But they're still a British company. So don't say that America is influencing your Census Bureau, when in actuality Lockheed Martin is a British company. Now, I'll agree with you that our military-industrial complex has subcontracted them for a few planes, but to sit here and say that, some Americans are sitting here, no, it's wrong. You're wrong, but go ahead.
Well, if that was a Welsh accent, it was poorly tried out, because I'm from Wales, and a Welsh accent doesn't sound like a London accent.
All right. Get to the point there, George Michael. Go ahead.
George Michael's gay, and I am not. I have plenty of women in my closet. Anyway, let's carry on. Yeah, the census, the Queen, the way, as you put it, as I see her, as many British people do, she is scum. She is a Saxe-Coburg and Gotha scumbag. She runs by the name now of the House of Windsor, because it sounds more regal, more bloody royal, more British, but he is still a Germanic Saxe and Coburg and Gotha house. We in Britain, or particularly in Wales, do not sort of subscribe to this notion that we should do everything that this scum tells us to.
Okay, that's a good point. But at the same time, let's go back in English history, shall we? I mean, you all executed Charles II. Lord Cromwell thought, he could just take over the crown there, and before that, he could lose face, they had to, instill some sort of crown, because let's be honest, you British people couldn't take the fact that, you didn't have some queen or king to worship. So the only lineage that was left after you all killed, because y'all not only chopped off the head of Charles II, y'all also chopped off the head of James II, and Charles I, for Christ's sake. Y'all were just sick. Y'all didn't know what y'all were doing. Now, when Lord Cromwell took over the throne, he was like, oh, man, Jesus, I didn't know what I was getting into. Oh, my God. So they had to go get a crown, and what did they do? They went to the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, just like you're alluding to, the German-breeded English lineage. And the reason is because you killed all your lineage, man. You killed them all. All right? So if you're pissed about, the Queen not being your lineage and being a part of the Windsor family, this is dumbass English people, with all due respect, basically creating the foundation of their own serfdom, of their own suppression. And, I know that you're making a point here that, hey, she's not really the queen, she's a lie, she's this. Hey, y'all implemented the crown again with King George because they couldn't find an heir that had any kind of blood lineage. You had to go back, 3 or 4 generations when, King Henry or one of these kings gave a damn daughter to the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And now, let's be honest, when Lord Cromwell took over the damn throne, y'all should have gone and done your own parliamentary procedure, but y'all didn't do that. Y'all decided that, we go to worship a queen. It's been tradition. And this is where we're at. So this is why, with all due respect, sir, you can say all this crap about the Queen and it's this and that, but, you still worship this piece of trash.
We don't worship the Queen. On the contrary, we are the sons of Owen Glendur. I'm from Wales. There's Wales, Ireland, and Scotland. In Wales, we don't believe or even recognise the lineage of the Queen. The Queen, the laws in Wales are purported to have come from England, from Parliament, and this is what I'm protesting against. Laws in England are supposed to have royal prerogative or royal assent. They don't. They haven't been signed by the Queen at all. They are null and void. We listen to the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, which was encompassed in.
I'm glad you brought up the Magna Carta because first of all, the Magna Carta was implemented in 1235, and it was implemented because they wanted the nobility of the crown to have an exclusive sector of rights. I mean, it was the first concept of the social contract, but it wasn't for individuals. I mean, the Magna Carta did not have every Englishman is made free. No, it was exclusively for the nobility. You can look it up. So are you nobility? Is that it? I mean, you're criticizing, the Zionists. You're criticizing people that are New World Order people. You're criticizing this and that. And yet you sound to me like someone who wants to be in cahoots with English nobility. I mean, that's what the Magna Carta was. The Magna Carta was an English nobility social contract with the crown and the nobility to give them rights that were recognized by the crown. So now that I've schooled you in your own history, let's continue going, shall we? Go ahead.
Absolutely. It afforded rights to sovereigns, and I am a sovereign of the land of Wales.
Yeah, you're an idiot. That's what you are. You're an absolute idiot. All right? I mean, I made you look lower than a leprechaun's nutsack when it comes to history, folks. Or whatever the hell his name is, Eddie. All right? I mean, and you're sitting over here. This is why you can't trust anybody who's like, oh, yes, the New World Order. Oh, yes, it's this and that. I mean, they don't know their history, I mean, don't come here, with a gun with no bullets, Don't come out and pull out a gun and shoot blanks, for Christ's sake, I mean, seriously. I mean, you didn't even know that the Magna Carta, was an exclusive document meant for the nobles. Nobility was the exclusive party that, basically benefited from the Magna Carta. Now, it wasn't until the social contract was developed by other writers in the Enlightenment movement, and for those of you folks that don't know the Enlightenment movement, maybe you should, read up about that. But there was different variants of the social contract, one of which was written by Rousseau. Rousseau's social contract was implemented in France after the French Revolution and didn't do very good. Another social contract idea was written by John Locke. John Locke was another person that wrote about the social contract and basically elaborated that the Magna Carta and the social contract should not just extend to the nobility, but to those that own property. Yeah. And there was another guy that, kind of filled in, with the social contract arena, Montesquieu, with the three branches of government, Montesquieu. I mean, come on, Brit boy. I mean, I thought you British people, you British socialists were supposed to be smart. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, good God, I know more about your history than you do. And you see, that's what I don't understand. How in the hell are you Europeans going to sit over here and wave your finger at me and wave your finger at those of us over here in the West when you don't even know your goddamn history, all right? So give me a break. Anyway, we got 2 minutes left in the broadcast. It's nothing like kicking a goddamn liney's ass verbally on this broadcast, for Christ's sake. I mean, I literally stomped a mud hole in that liney's ass, kicked it dry, and then took a dirty yellow bubbly piss in it, and the only idiot thing he can do is, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to just look at you with a yellow smile about it. Oh, my God. You stupid idiot, queen-worshipping piece of crap. I'm sorry. Now, I'm not saying that all English bow down to the Queen. Look, I saw when they were egging that car and, damn near causing a ruckus with Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles going to their car. I get it. But let's be honest, all right? If you were that pissed off about it, you would urge your parliament to nullify this whole concept of a royal family, but you don't. So don't sit here and wave your finger at me, all right? Don't you dare do it. Anyway, folks, I'm going to be here tomorrow, same place, the normal time. I know that we started an hour ahead today because of the technical difficulties here on Blog Talk Radio, but tomorrow it's going to be the same time, all right? The same time, just like it is every day, 4 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, all right? 4 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I'm here Monday through Friday. So spread the word, all right? Let everybody know. Spread it around like wildfire and send them to the link, blogtalkradio.com/ghost, all right? Send them to that link and spread it around like wildfire. Hey, if that little girl in Australia can get 200,000 invites to her little house party on Facebook, you should be able to go ahead and spread it around like wildfire. There should be 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, and we can gather up all these true capitalists, gather them together, and tell them worldwide that we need to assert our authority. Anyway, I'm out of here, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in with me. I'm going to be here tomorrow. I hope you're here, too. Long live capitalism, and I'm out of here.
You've been listening to True Capitalist Radio. The thoughts, views, ideas, comments, and opinions of the host of this show are absolutely his. Catch more live episodes Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30 Central, or check out archive shows at blogtalkradio.com. True Capitalist Radio.
That's it.
Boar's Head is bringing a slice of Japan to the deli. Introducing Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. Tender, slow-roasted chicken breast, coated in our signature teriyaki glaze, where ginger, garlic, and a hint of brown sugar meet for a flavor that's both sweet and savory. New Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. The bold flavor of Japan. Now at the deli. Only from Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.